7th on Jocks 94.5. We'll talk some college basketball today. Pretty good night for in-state schools last night. Auburn takes out Ole Miss 106-76. That the most dominant win that an in-state school had last night. We'll discuss it amongst others. Today, the coach, Wimp Sanderson, will join us at 9 a.m. That's our guest list. We will discuss Auburn's win last night with him. We will look ahead to some of the games coming up this weekend, get his thoughts on where Auburn, Alabama are heading into the postseason and the SEC tournament with just a couple of games left for either team. Also, we have some coaching news around college football. Oddly enough, there's some portal news happening in college football, which sometimes you look at this and just wonder, how are guys going into the portal, announcing they're going to the portal? But apparently it really does never close. Even though there are rules that say it closes, it doesn't appear so that it is. We'll talk NFL Combine. Workouts get going today. Some NFL news is going to happen today. We'll take your calls, 800-239-9569. On this Auburn basketball win last night, Greg, 106-76. Tigers now 26-2 on the season. There were stretches of this game last night where this is the second game in a row that I've kind of thought to myself, is there concern with some of the lulls that this team seems to have? And they're not long. They're not terrible. I just wonder if part of this team is bored, to be perfectly honest with you. They were on fire early. Could not miss early in this game. Physically, Auburn dominated this game. 44-30, they outscore Ole Miss in the paint. 33-20, Auburn out-rebounds Ole Miss in this game last night. 20 rebounds for Ole Miss in a full basketball game. It was a dominant win for Bruce Pearl's Tigers.
Well, they've been so good with their starts most of the time in big games, especially at home. I mean, this was big.
It's a great point.
I mean, out of the gate, it's like by the time Ole Miss even has a chance to just inhale, they're down 20. I mean, it was almost immediate. And in that venue in particular, it's a tough place to come back and try to put forth a tremendous effort. I mean, if they shoot it like that and they can start like that at home, you're not beating them. It's not happening. So I think that's the key. It's just continuing these hot starts and applying the pressure because they're going to be great defensively. And if they can shoot it like that, they're going to be tough to beat by pretty much anyone wherever they play.
And the sort of back and forth, the ping pong battle with Chad Baker-Mazar continues. 22 points last night, 4 or 5 from behind the three-point line. He just adds so much on the court. His length obviously is problematic. Defensively, he causes issues. And we talked to Richard Hendricks on Monday about it, and he's like, hey, man, listen, every team has a guy that gives you some kind of an edge, that gives you a little something extra, that can either get you involved, get you interested, get you excited, get you frustrated. I mean, he invokes a lot of emotion in a lot of different ways. But last night was a pretty good example of a lot of the good that he also brings to that Auburn lineup.
Yeah, for sure. And I think Chad Baker-Mazar is just a guy that flusters the opposition. I mean, he's just a relentless competitor. I'd say some of the things he does are occasionally outside the whistle, but he's like a little like Draymond Green. I mean, there's a little bit of that in him. And that's, if he's an irritant to those that he's playing against, more so than those he's playing with, then that's advantage Auburn. So I think Chad Baker-Mazar has been saying it from the beginning of the year. He's the guy that most frustrating to watch from an opponent standpoint on the team. He's the one that if he gets going, all of a sudden he's playing out of his mind, has a great input offensively. That's when they become really dangerous and extremely difficult to defend.
You know that Broom is going to be the guy that everything goes through. He's the one that is going to be really the facilitator as far as, how things go in the paint. He's going to set the tone physically, going to be the ultimate leader on this team. He'll be able to stretch the floor at times. Obviously can get to the rim defensively. He'll change things in the paint, but it is beginning to feel like as much as Denver Jones, who hit 2 more threes last night and has become an elite defender, and what you get from Pettiford off the bench and what Chaney Johnson has offered at different times, specifically in the last month of the season, you begin to wonder, is Chad Baker-Mazar is he that other guy in the postseason that could put Auburn over the top, that could be the ultimate difference maker once they get into the SEC or NCAA tournament?
He wouldn't be. I wouldn't bet against him. I don't know about you. Betting against him as the difference maker, the guy that makes it all go, the guy that is that extra gear, that boost of energy when necessary. I mean, it's hard to push back on the possibility of him being that guy. I almost lean towards that. So yeah, I mean, I think he's a handful, and have been saying it now for, gosh, as long as we've been watching Auburn this season, that Baker Mazar is the one that gives me the biggest headache if I'm the opposition.
Is there anything you look at with this team as sort of a weakness, a real concern? I mean,
not last night.
Any team can lose to any team any night. It's like you said. I think the most impressive part of this team, maybe this month, has just been their starts, just out of the gate. How
many games in a row have they had a great start?
Absolutely, they did against Alabama.
Right.
Definitely against Arkansas, maybe not as much so. Great start against Georgia, great start against Ole Miss. I think they got off to a pretty good start against Vanderbilt before Alabama. Florida was not. So, yeah, you could be looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe five straight games that they've been off to a very impressive start. And as you stated, with how they play defense, if that happens, and then you get 2 or 3 guys outside of Broome offensively that are contributing, they're going to be tough to bring down.
Yeah, you're cooking for sure. So I think there's a lot to be excited about with the momentum they've created. And I really don't believe that this team can be beat unless a team is just shooting out of their mind. And they're going to have to make some contested shots. I mean, Florida obviously beat them. But I think a lot of that was you're watching Florida make and take shots that were just low percentage. For most teams, they're extremely low percentage. But for Florida that night, I mean, nothing. I mean, the hoop was enormous. So, yeah, can they be beat? Absolutely, 100%. But I think it's going to be the other team playing at an unconscious level for, the entire game, I would think.
I wouldn't doubt it. All right, so last night, 106-76. It was a wild night in the SEC, really, last night. I mean, you had a couple of awesome finishes late last night. You would have had to stay up to see a couple of them, but Auburn gets their 26th win of the season. That is tied for second most before the conference tournament in program history. They had 27 wins in 21-22 season, and then 26 wins as well in the 98-99 season. 106 points, most in regulation since 2021. It's the second largest win versus Ole Miss in series history. 1963, the Tigers knocked off the Rebs 79-44. Broome's 24 points, 9 boards last night. First player with 15 points and 5 rebounds in 10 consecutive games since. First SEC player with 15 points, 5 rebounds, 10 straight games since. If I gave you the year, do you think you could get a good guess in? 2016 was the
2016,
year.
Let's say 2016. Ooh. I was going to go like Joakim Noah.
Not a bad guess, actually.
Anthony Davis is at 2012.
He would tie with 11 straight if he can do it again in Lexington. Ben Simmons out of LSU.
He played?
His NBA career did not go the way some anticipated.
One time he did play was in college.
He's breaded, though.
Yes. No one would debate that. Chad Baker-Mazara, season high 22 points, 6 career 20-point game last night. Ole Miss goes to 0-17 all time against AP number 1 teams. Greg, that is tied with Colorado for the 3rd most losses without a win against a top-ranked opponent all time. Ole Miss has also allowed 90 or more points in both games against Auburn this season. The only 2 90-point games that they've allowed all year.
Ooh.
So 10 turnovers led to 18 points for Auburn last night. That was an issue for Ole Miss. That was a massive plus for Auburn last night. So the Tigers, I mean, Broome again, though, we talk about how sometimes we just kind of brush past it because we know he's the guy.
Yeah.
And it's gotten so much more than points with him now. 24 points, 9 boards. He had 10 of 12 of his free throws. He had 2 blocks. He had 4 assists. And as I stated earlier, Auburn dominates the paint 44-30. It's just he gets to 2,500 points last night, the 86th Division I player ever with 2,500 career points. Did that feel like high or low to you?
That feels kind of low relative to
how many basketball players we've had.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I thought also.
But then again, I mean, how many guys are playing that many years? I don't know. I mean, that seems a little low. I would have told, if you would have said, hey, over under 200, I would have said probably just under, at least double.
Yeah. It just felt when I saw the number last night, I was like, man, that's I don't know. I don't know if that feels high or low. Can't really tell.
Yeah.
But then again, I don't know if we know the benchmarks with a college basketball season like we do a college football season. Like we know 1,000-yard rusher, 3,000-yard passer. Like what are some of those benchmarks in college hoops? Like what do you think the most points scored in a college basketball season is? We actually discussed this guy not too long ago. It was Pete Maravich.
Yeah.
We talked about him.
Right. But I'm trying to think of like who else would even be in the mix, and I'm thinking more modern day. Like modern day guys that would be in the mix for points scored. But it'd be like a G5 guy, wouldn't it be? Like, don't you think like some of those G5 guys, like Jelly Walker a couple years back? Remember, I mean, like he'd be a guy that would come to mind where he's going to get
Curry
30. Yeah, Steph Curry.
Yeah, those guys aren't. There's one on this list that is semi-recent that you'll definitely know. Not as many as you would think. The most ever is Pete Maravich's 1381 at LSU. And then you would go Elvin Haynes, Frank Selvey, Pete Maravich, Bo Kimball, Hersey Hawkins, Austin Carr, Otis Birdsong. And then just outside the top 10 would be Jimmer Fredette with 1,068.
Jimmer Fredette. Golly, that's a great name drop.
Could light it up.
He could score. That dude could score it.
Not afraid to take the shot.
No.
I got it.
Don't worry, guys.
Top 5 all time. Me. Top 5 all time. I got it, guy.
Maybe top.
Just get me the ball, man.
Yeah.
I'll half court, no problem.
About to say he might be better than like top 5. He might be up there. Like that dude. Hey, buckets.
There's some bricks with it too.
No, he wasn't afraid.
No, not at all.
Not afraid.
So to put it in perspective, there have been 20 players ever that have scored 1,000 points in a basketball season. The other names would be
Ever.
The other names would be Kevin Bradshaw
of
U.S. International 1990-1991. I do not know.
Where's U.S. International?
I hadn't seen the tape.
Toronto.
I hadn't seen the tape on that.
Isn't that where Hakeem went in?
They were
to America. University.
Oh, University of no, it's University of
US
America.
International goals. And no, that is not like my 7-year-old referencing females. That is their mascot, actually.
What?
Goals? Like goals and boys?
What Jay-Z loves?
Ours are gills.
Gills?
With R's are W's. Gills.
By the way, in said season, the team was 2-26. They were an independent. Head coach Gary Zarecki.
Oh, GZ.
So essentially, hey guys, we're losing. Just let Bradshaw take the shot.
Bradshaw's got us.
Let
Bradshaw eat today, boys.
Bo Lamar from Louisiana, University of.
Bo Limmer?
Louisiana Lafayette. The University of Louisiana at Lafayette. ULL. Glenn Robinson. Hank Gathers again. Oscar Robertson again. And Freeman Williams. Also Billy McGill and Richard Fuqua. Utah, Oral Roberts, respectively, 61-62, 71-72. It is wild to me that this has not been done more often in recent memory. I would also like to see the amount of shots taken with some of these guys compared to others. Because even though, as we referenced with Fredette, not afraid to shoot it, I have a feeling that some of those guys on that list were taking about 85% of their team shots.
85? That feels low.
Specifically some of the bigs. Hey, lob it into the big O, and he'll handle it. Don't worry. But yeah, it's I would have, if you'd asked me how many college basketball players have scored 1,000 points in a season, I would have given you more than 20.
20 probably, I don't know, 20, 25. I mean, maybe not by like a ton. I don't know how you see it.
The most recent name would be at 20, the ranked 23rd, Zach Edey with 983. I mean, he was averaging like 30 a game, right?
Gosh, it felt like 30 rebounds.
That too.
That dude wasn't afraid to get buckets and boards.
We were watching the Grizz the other night, and he like launched.
Is he still playing?
Yeah, he launched 2 threes in the time we were watching it, and I was like, no wonder John Morant wants out of there. Steph Curry 51st with 931.
Why are you so down on him?
I just don't feel like he needs to be putting it up from behind the arc, but hey.
Wow.
And the announcer gave him credit too. The announcer said he has knocked down 3 threes on the season.
3 this year.
Well, we're more than halfway through the year, bud. That doesn't feel optimal. But
No.
hey, keep chucking it. Allen Iverson, 54th with 926. Larry Bird, 60th with 918. Just some perspective on where some guys have been compared to some of the best that ever did it. Just kind of an odd number to me because I had not taken the time to go back and look at it and know exactly what that was when that was.
No.
So that's what you got there.
Love that. Are you one that is going to start going back through, like, historically looking at some of these records? Because some of these records, looking at some of these, they feel very untouchable. The college basketball, even though we've now had 5th year and 6th year players that have been playing with COVID since gosh knows how long, but some of these feel untouchable.
They're beyond untouchable. And I think when it becomes surprising is just the fact that we're adding games, playing more games. I know guys are not playing as many seasons per se, but you would have thought for sure that they would be finding ways to score more points. And some of these guys did, specifically without a 3-point line back in the day.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, here we are. Still some cool weather out there. It's hanging around. Schedule your system checkup now from a Trane Comfort Specialist. Trane has been recognized 10 consecutive years as America's most trusted HVAC brand and our exclusive home comfort partners here at Jocks. Visit Trane.com to find a comfort specialist near you. Remember, it's hard to stop a train. Look around the rest of the SEC in a wild night of hoops last night. Next on Mac and Cube in the morning. Welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, Thursday, February 27th, 7:20 a.m. Before we get into a couple of the other SEC games from last night, which was a wild night in the SEC, we need to put a couple of things into perspective for you here. As we got going talking about Johni Broome, 86 player all time with 2,500 career points in his college basketball career. We went and checked Johni Broome's numbers. John, if you had to guess right now, Johni Broome, how many points he has on the season?
I would say 853.
Missed a couple games, but averaging
How many games he missed? 2?
I think 2.
2 games?
Yeah, you could
Parts of
something?
more?
Yeah.
488.
Oh.
Close.
Less than halfway there. But to show you just how crazy the thought in all of this is, Trenton McLaughlin, everybody's seen the tape on him, right?
Old TM.
Durr.
He is our nation's leading scorer, representing the flag. Northern Arizona, senior guard, 6'6", has 630 points on the season. That's more than anyone else. Folks, we have hardly 2 weeks left in the college basketball season. He's 500 points behind Pete Maravich.
Just slightly. It's not as many as you think. It feels like more.
All he has to do is go straight Jimmer Fredette through the conference tournament into the NCAA tournament and get to the Final Four, and he'd still miss it by 300 points.
That's it?
That's all.
Gosh, we are so back.
I mean, there are only 6 players in college basketball that have over 600 points right now, which is not even halfway to where Maravich was. Once again, just a record that I didn't know was that insane.
Was Maravich good?
Considering he also has the 4th and 5th most points all time in a season, yeah, that's not bad.
Decent.
He had 1148 and 1138 as well as his 1381. That's
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Literally ridiculous.
But when I saw Broome's 488, I was like, I mean, he's having a hell of a year.
Yeah.
488 points. Okay.
Good year for him.
Going down the list of guys in college basketball this year that from a scoring perspective have been pretty ridiculous. Like PJ Haggerty at Memphis. He is the 10th leading scorer in the nation right now, 574. Just perspective, Mark Sears, really good year, right?
Very.
He is tied for 35th this year with 531. 531 on the season.
Yep.
And that's a team that scores a lot.
A whole heap.
So I don't think anybody's catching Old Pistol Pete anytime
I don't
soon.
think that's going to happen this year.
I think he's
barring something really unforeseen.
I think he's in good shape. I think he's going to be okay. Wild night in the SEC last night. A couple games down to the wire and some meaningful games too with some teams that are trying to work their way into the NCAA tournament. A huge win for Vandy last night, 86-84 at Texas A&M, as Texas A&M continues to be a little bit of a confusing basketball team with how some things go. But Vandy did shoot 10 of 24 from behind the three-point line last night. A&M out-rebounded Vandy, but did have 12 turnovers. These two teams, Greg, shot 28 of 35 and 31 of 39 from the free throw line.
That good?
75 free throws in this game.
That a lot?
Now,
goodness gracious.
A&M shot 37% from the floor. So that was a pretty big issue as to what happened. Tyler Nickel went for 21 for Vandy as they get that win. They get to 19-9. A&M goes to 20-8 on the season. Kentucky and Oklahoma go down to the wire. Otega Owe was incredible down the stretch in this game. 28 points against his former team. There were words late and after. Handshake line aborted by both teams. But Owe goes 12 of 21 for those 28 points. This Kentucky team that's going to get Auburn in Lexington on Saturday shot well, 50% from the floor, 7 of 23 from 3. And Owe leads the way as Kentucky gets a huge win, a couple of big free throws down the stretch, and he sort of paves the way for the Cats to get a massive win on the road. You didn't want to drop that one again before Auburn comes to town, even though Oklahoma shot 10 of 25 from behind the three-point line. 20 points from Jalen Moore, not enough as the Sooners go to 17-11, 4-11 in conference, Greg, and there are people talking about them in the tournament.
Well, they look at the out-of-conference wins. That's what's crazy about it, is while it hasn't been great in conference, the out-of-conference wins and what they did in pre-conference is amazing. So,
but where are we on you're still good even though you lose to a lot of good teams?
What about coming in? What about it's all about how you finish? Well, how have they finished so far? Not being negative, but it ain't great. Spoiler alert.
They've lost 6 of their last 7, if that's what you're counting.
Is that bad?
8 of their last 9, or 7 of their last 9.
I'd say that lacks.
That maybe fits the profile of limping down the stretch.
I'd say that lacks ideal qualities.
Yeesh. But hey, they get in, they get in. You also had a freshman record last night for the Texas Longhorns as Trey Johnson goes for 39. Texas and Arkansas go to overtime. Horns fall to 16-12. Razorbacks go to 17-11. Johnson, incredible, 14-28, 7 of 11 from behind the three-point line, hit all 4 of his free throws, but still not enough for the Horns as they shoot just 9 of 26 from behind the three-point line. And Arkansas gets 18 from Big Z. All 5 starters in double figures, only played 2 off the bench, and they find a way after being out-rebounded and turning the ball over more than Texas last night to get a win at home. That's a big win for Cal there. To hang on here late in the season and continue to try to drive some positive momentum with an overtime win at home against Texas. And a freshman scoring record, more than Kevin Durant, more than any other freshman has done at Texas last night. Trey Johnson lit it up.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens with Arkansas going forward. And if they do somehow make a run, every team you talk to, every person you talk to that's watched them up close, that's not a team you want to mess around with. I feel like Bruce Pearl said that. Many others have echoed that. So if you get hot and for whatever reason find something down the stretch, that's a dangerous proposition for a lot of teams because that team does have pros on it. And pros are a problem come tournament time. So be curious to see how they finish up.
How about last night was the first overtime game this season for Arkansas and Texas? But that was the 9th overtime game that they have played against one another ever. 9th.
That is pretty wild.
You think they used to
They haven't even been in the
jammed the
conference
schedules
together.
back in the Southwest Conference days?
I think back in the day, there's, one or two.
Playing 8 times this year.
We're gonna find out. We're gonna find out this year.
You're sending us to Austin 7 times this year?
8.
We give the people what they want.
We like that.
3rd straight home win for the Razorbacks after they started SEC play 1-5 at home. So you are seeing the Hogs, kind of turn things around just a little bit. They were 4 for 4 from the floor in overtime after they missed their last 4 in regulation. And as I mentioned, overcame a massive night from Trey Johnson. 39 points, tied for second most by a Division I freshman this season. Anybody want to take a guess who the other was?
No clue.
Tied with Rutgers ace Bailey.
Oh, he's legit.
And the freshman high this year. You want to take a guess at who that is? Please tell me you have a good guess at who that is. There should only be one guess as to who that is. Goodness gracious, folks.
Guy from Duke?
Yeah, Cooper Flagg.
Yeah.
42 points versus Notre Dame.
He's more of a distributor, though, is what I've been told. He is pretty impressive.
He is.
He's really impressive.
Texas trailed by me is 14 in this game. Outscored Arkansas 26-12 over the final.
By the way, is it bad that I wanted to call him Cooper Flanagan for a minute? I was like trying to think. I was like, hang on a second. Cooper Flanagan. Where's Cooper Flanagan? Why do I know that name?
I'm talking about the kid from UConn.
That's the guy's name, Cooper Flanagan?
No, but that's who you're thinking of, I think.
Cooper Flanagan. I'm telling you, that guy played somewhere. He's a tight end for Notre Dame. I told you.
Exactly. Because we're talking football here.
That's but I knew that name. I'm just, for whatever reason, Cooper Flanagan was going to come out, and I'm like, that's not it. It's
I just thought you were
Duke.
talking about Leah McNeely, and you were putting like Irish names together somehow.
No, that would be hilarious. So I like where your head's at.
That's it.
Just
right,
roll
so,
all the Irishmen in together. That's us.
So we missed some context there on Oklahoma's finish down the stretch and kind of some of the things that people say about that team that doesn't really make sense. Now that the combine's going and a lot of NFL personnel are doing interviews, talking to people, giving quotes, there's something that is being said over and over again that I cannot find the context on, that I have real questions about. I'm going to tell you what that is on the other side of the break. Before we get to a break, I'm going to tell you about Game Day Men's Health. If you are lacking sleep, lacking energy, If you feel on edge, could be the effects of low testosterone. This is what Game Day Men's Health wants to do for you. You go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com right now, and they're going to let you sign up, come in for a free consultation. With that free consultation, free PSA test, free testosterone test. If you have gained a little bit too much weight since the holidays, you're looking to get back on track, there are multiple weight loss plans available at Game Day Men's Health. They're going to give you several different options in which they can help you try to get some of the weight off. Those now include peptides, which they have multiple mixtures that can help you with different portions of your health there at Game Day Men's Health. They got the B12 shots for energy, a lot of different things that can help you with your daily routine. Great locker room environment, good people, not going to try to push you into services that you don't need. Minimal upfront costs from the programs that they offer. Visit GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Go ahead and schedule that free consultation today and tell them you heard about them right here on Mac and Cube in the morning, and you can save 10% on any service that they offer. A confusing statement that continues to come out from NFL front offices. I'll ask Greg McElroy to clarify that. See if he can do it next on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. .34 Thursday, February 27th on Jocks 94.5. Some other in-state hoops last night. North Alabama takes down Queens University. Lions get to 22-9 on the year. 74-69 they get to win. Queens turned it over 14 times. Jakari Lane, 20 points for the Lions as their excellent season continues. And South Alabama gets to 20 wins. They're now 20-10. They knock off Southern Miss on the road, 88-82, 10 of 24 from behind the three-point line. Barry Dunning Jr. continues to be great for the Jags. 14 points, 11 rebounds last night. Golden Eagles turned it over 15 times. South Alabama shot 51% from the floor, and Southern Miss 13 of 35 from behind the three-point line. So not afraid to launch it last night. Tonight, you're going to get Samford at VMI, 5 o'clock on ESPN+. Samford 21-8 on the season. Should have a good opportunity to add to that tonight against a 13-16 VMI team. Jacksonville State looks to get to 20 wins tonight. They're 19-9, but at Liberty, who is 22-5 on the season. That's 6 o'clock on ESPN+. UAB at Wichita State. Blazers 18-9. Shockers 17-10 on the season. That's an 8 o'clock tip on ESPN-U. So if you're looking to watch Andy Kennedy's group, you can do that with a late tip tonight on the U. So we know at the Combine, Greg, there are a lot of folks that are dropping hints, that are giving out information. A lot of people learn a lot of different things. If our listeners are looking to learn where to buy a gift for their loved one, there's nothing to learn. It's easy. It needs to be Bromberg's.
Yeah, Bromberg's is the best. It's a place I've been going for a very long time, and I know you guys will have a similar experience to the one that I've had when I've gone over there time and time again. I always am so grateful of the service that we receive when we go and see Bromberg's and the sales staff. They know your preferences better than you do. It's really incredible to see them work and to see them help you and know that they'll go the extra mile to make sure that you have what you need. So go and see them in Mountain Brook Village and at the Summit. Go and get a natural diamond. Go and get rare gemstone. They have so many different ways to be able to make your loved ones happy. So go and take a drive over there and see it for yourself. Interact with them. Find the piece that might live in your family from multiple generations. So go and see them at Bromberg's, at Mountain Brook Village, and at the Summit.
All right, so a couple of quotes that I have seen, mainly coming down from Adam Schefter, but a couple other folks that cover the NFL. And you're just going to have to kind of help me with this as far as the context and the meaning and how we're operating here as an NFL franchise. We've got some other NFL news that we'll get to here in just a moment. I'll start with the Titans, since they're a team that a lot of people fans of here. Schefter tweets out yesterday, Titans have granted permission to former Pro Bowl linebacker Harold Landry to seek a trade.
Ooh.
Okay. I'm not worried about the player. I'm not worried about the team. I'm worried about the context and verbiage with some of the guys that we're going to be talking about here in just a moment.
Honest question, has he been pretty good? I think
he's been solid. I don't know if he has played to the extent of where he was selected.
Right.
But I think he's been good.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that if you were saying, hey, did we get value there? You would say yes, as much as maybe I don't think you hit your ceiling that you thought you were drafting.
No.
If that was going to be the case.
But not a bad pick. Not a bust.
No, definitly not a bust.
Okay.
No.
So we're okay there.
Yes, correct. And we did have some big news from an injury perspective coming out of the Combine yesterday that we'll get to here in just a moment. But there are a couple of other players that are floating around the NFL that apparently their teams have granted them permission to seek a trade.
Yeah.
That phrase right there is one that I need a little bit of clarification on. Are you essentially telling me that I need to go do your job for you?
Sounds
is that
like
what that statement is?
That's what it sounds like.
Like, hey, we don't really want to do the work to get rid of you, but you're more than free to go do the work to get rid of yourself.
I think that seems reasonable enough. It's not asking for much. Hey, just find me a new home, please. Tax-free, tax-friendly. Florida.
But the
happy with
the
Vegas.
player is not asking. The team is telling player that if you would like to leave us, we are not going to put the work in for that, but you are welcome to leave us yourself.
You can explore that, correct? And
that's
not that uncommon, though.
I understand that, but it's the phrasing that I look at and I kind of don't understand.
I don't disagree. It's ridiculous.
Do they want the player?
No.
Like, do you want the player to stay on your team?
If you're letting your wife date other people, you probably don't want to stay married. Just saying.
What if you're giving your wife permission to seek relations with others?
Then that's what do you really want to stay married? No, probably not.
Are you then looking for an excuse to exit said relationship?
It sounds like it.
But if you're not putting forth the work to actually exit said relationship, do you really want relationship to end?
Not sure I know the answer to that, but probably
That's where
not.
I have to figure out what these NFL teams are doing, because I've seen this with 5 or 6 guys over the last 2 days that so-and-so now has permission to seek a trade. If you don't want me, get rid of me yourself. Why do I have to get rid of me? You have a whole front office for that.
Because it's the player empowerment era. You wouldn't want the players to feel as though they're not wanted. That would be terrible.
In the NFL?
No, you can't. These guys, they're all wanted. We really want you on the team, but if you want to go and find another opportunity for yourself, then we can encourage that. It's a little bit like if a coach calls you in right now in college football and says, "Hey, if I were you, I might look into the portal. Like, we want you here. Like, we want you here. Don't get it twisted.
You might play some. There's not any NIL money for you, but you definitely might play.
Well, you will have a jersey. We want you here badly.
We're even going to let you travel.
Maybe. Let's not get carried away. Depending on where we could be thin in other places, you might be able to make road trips with us. You for sure will be in Bryant-Denny when we are at home. I can't guarantee you'll be in uniform, but you will be at Bryant-Denny.
Hey,
you will have at least 2 tickets.
Watch this Shaden Sharp dunk last night. Did you see this?
No.
Off the steal. Watch this. Dunk of the year.
Yeah, it's really good. What great defense, too.
That might be better than Mac McClung.
Oh, boy.
Sorry to interrupt you.
You're
Shaden
good.
Sharp actually on a roster, though. So
Heard that.
could this maybe be I'm just thinking out loud here. Could this be hey, we really aren't paying you very much, but we also don't want you on our roster as a player, but because you cost us next to nothing, we're willing to let you stick around. But if you personally could find another place to go, we wouldn't put up a fight.
Correct. I think it's something like that. I don't know if it's so much about I think it's probably just not a very good player, but we're not going to cut you because the dead cap money wouldn't be worth cutting you. So we'll keep you on.
Right.
But
we'll put you on every coverage team we have.
Yeah, we would prefer getting something in return for you. But we're not going to make it known.
But
to
again,
teams.
you have a front office for that. It's what they do.
No, they're scouting. You know how they're always recruiting?
What is the equivalent of this in the real world? Because college football is not the real world. That's like whose boss?
Let me give you an example.
Comes to them and says,
I'll give you an example of what this is like.
You could if you could find another job,
yeah,
you should definitely seek that. But you're not fired. We're not going to get rid of you.
No, that's definitely what's going on. Let me tell you
exactly.
exactly.
Who's ever had somebody say that to
I'll
him?
give you a real world example of that. Right now, you could have or could not have received a email last week from your big boss saying, I need you to write down 5 bullet points with what you accomplished this week. And if you don't do that, then we are going to deem that you are unnecessary. And therefore, you don't need to be employed anymore.
What 5 things did you write down?
I didn't get that email because I'm not a federal employee. But that is something that's going on right now. It's a hot topic of debate right now. So that's kind of what they're doing up there. It's like, we'll keep you. We don't really want to, but if you can justify your existence, we'll keep you.
But if
you can find something else, if you can, I don't know. I'm not a federal employee. Maybe 5 things is hard. I started thinking to myself, like, what are the 5 things that I did last week? Well, Monday, did radio.
Oh, they're just asking for a week?
Yeah.
Hope it was a good week.
About to say, does doing radio count as 1 or 5? Because we do 5 shows.
No, it's 0.
0?
Yeah, that's fun. That's just add on.
That's just a bonus.
It's icing on the cake.
We get to talk sports. But what I'm getting at is like, that's kind of what it is. Like, we'll keep you, but you kind of have to justify your existence. But
or if you found
put the
another
work
into it to go somewhere else, then we'll allow that.
Yeah, if you found another opportunity, like, please, by all means, we would prefer that you're not here.
It just always feels a little backwards when I hear the whole, we have given you permission to go seek a trade away from us.
Yes, we don't want you.
Other than
but as of right now,
actively looking to get you out of here.
As of right now, you are best available in our world. We don't want you.
Rick Morton tweets into the show, the team still wants the player, but is allowing them to test their value because the player overvalues himself. That feels like a very good explanation. specifically if there's some things internally where said player is looking for more. And that goes back to what you were talking about a moment ago with college football, a conversation that you brought up, which I would guess probably happens often when players go in and ask for more in NIL.
I would think that happens a lot.
Hey, we're going to give you a helmet, but the extra NIL is an absolute no. But you're welcome to stay here and be on the kick cover team.
You might get a helmet, TBD.
But the NIL bonus is that's not.
That's out. Yeah,
sorry.
that's out.
Yeah,
yes.
It's not going to be there.
No, not going to happen. But we appreciate your willingness to run down on kickoff.
There is an NFL franchise that is
seriously. What do you do if you get that? If you get that, if you
get
get
on the
told
phone with
that,
my agent, say get me out of here.
I'm about
now.
to say I would be out of there so fast. I would go and I would drive to Dallas and be a part of the Cowboys ASAP.
What if they
Hey,
didn't want you?
Jerry, I'll work for free. Just give me one of them shirts.
Just get me in the door.
Give me a chance to compete. I want in. I've always wanted to be a Cowboy.
All right, some pretty big NFL coaching news. There's one NFL franchise that is raiding the college ranks and picking up some pretty good names while doing so, and an NFL franchise, the same one actually, that says they know who their quarterback is moving forward. We'll give you that, as well as another franchise that is slated to make a certain player the highest paid ever at their position. We'll discuss those and more next on Mac and Cube in the morning. 7:50, McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, 800-239-9569. You want to get in on college hoops that we have been discussing, our NFL discussion that we have been having and will continue to have here. Abdul Carter, foot injury at the combine, Greg, which not one that is overly complicated, I don't believe.
I haven't actually seen the specifics. Have you seen the specifics?
I think I know what it is, but I don't think it's been released.
Metacarpal? Metatarsal?
I think it's got to be metatarsal because there are mixed
Yeah.
opinions on whether or not he needs surgery, which having a fifth metatarsal issue and one who tried to let it heal and then needed the screw put in after down the road. Sounds like that's what it is, which is it's not a massive deal. And they referenced it as a stress reaction, which again goes further to tell me that that's what it is. So, quote, there are mixed opinions on whether he needs surgery, and we will figure out that in the near future, said Drew Rosenhaus, his agent. There are some people talking about him being first overall. Does that impact that, in your opinion? Has to impact it some.
Yes. I think it does to an extent, but that's not one that's going to linger. I mean, you put a screw in it, you call it a day.
Yeah, it doesn't definitively push you down.
No, I mean, I think he'll be all right. If you want him first overall, you can certainly take him first overall. I don't think that injury or the subsequent surgery, I don't think that would be prohibitive.
No. The Saints have been in the news all week, really, at the combine. John, Mickey Loomis, the general manager, says that they are committed to Derek Carr moving forward, specifically in 2025. But is that the news that Saints fans want to hear?
No.
Got it.
But
noted.
Given the,
you're ready to hand it over to Spencer Rattler?
Why do people hate him so much?
I'm
being serious.
Hate him. I just think he's at best fine.
Yeah, but he's at. Here's
better
the problem.
Than at best bad.
Here's the problem with Derek Carr. He resides currently in the Kyler Murray world. There's a collection of quarterbacks that will get you to at least 7-9 every year, or 7-10, between 7-10 and 9-8. Like, you're gonna hover right there around mediocrity. Kyler Murray is one. Derek Carr is one. There's a handful of others, because if you have those guys, you're never going to have draft position to go and really improve your quarterback situation. You're just going to have picks between 15 and 22 every single year. So you can never go up and get the top guy, and you're never really in position to get a guy that could be a game changer for you.
So if that's the case, then they shouldn't want him, because if you're just going to go around here being average, what's the point?
Well, if you're going to be average, that's fine. But at some point here, you are going, if you get rid of him, you fall off a cliff. And then now your GM, your coach, everybody in the front office, they run the risk of being gassed because they fell off a cliff. Yeah, great. You got draft stock. You're in a good spot. But,
well, it almost feels like they've kind of halfway tried to address this with not really reaching for a quarterback, but taking quarterbacks with Haener and Rattler, guys who we thought had a chance to maybe move into a starting role at some point in the NFL, but weren't locks by any stretch coming in. Last year was Carr's 11th season in the NFL. It was the first year he didn't throw for 3,000 yards. He also had 4 straight 4,000-yard seasons. Now, he has had some heavy interception years. Double-digit interceptions 6 times in his career. So that would be the one thing that I think people would probably look at, Greg, and say, you give the ball to the other team a little bit too much, but there has been steady production, consistent production. Last year, just 10 games, so only 2,145 yards, 15 touchdowns, 5 picks. But in the Saints uniform, he has not been really interception heavy. And so once again, I'll go back to, now he was sacked 31 times in 2023, which feels problematic. Not as bad as the 51 times he was sacked in Oakland in 2018. Holy mother.
They were not good up front.
But, yeah, he is in that category of just, I don't think guys that can, it's going to be very difficult for them to become likable for a lot of fans. If for any team, any franchise, it's just he's moved into that weird realm of just people don't like him, and I don't think a lot of people know why they don't like him.
Personally, I don't dislike him, but he also has, I think, the 5th or 6th highest cap hit for a quarterback. And so when you have that much tied into someone that's like that, like you said, your ceiling's capped already. Now it's even more so because he's at best fine.
Yeah. It's that part makes sense because if you're going to spend that much money on somebody, you want them to be maybe more than even productive. You think they should be great. But some assistant coaches that are coming into the New Orleans Saints, raiding the college football world as Cal defensive coordinator Peter Sirmon will now be the linebackers coach for the Saints. Been around college football a long time, has spent some time in the NFL previously, done a good job at Cal. So that'll be a hit to that staff. And Bo Davis, LSU defensive line coach, who has been at Texas and at Alabama and is just fantastic. Greg, he's now going to be the Saints defensive line coach. That's a big hit to Cal, who we think could have a pretty good year this year. And that's a big hit to LSU. I like their coaching staff in general.
Yeah, I like Cal a lot this year in the ACC. As far as being a bit of a problem, they did lose a lot of key pieces, though. They lost their quarterback, Fernando Mendoza, who's now at Indiana, lost some key pieces in the back end defensively. That secondary, though, is one of the best in the country last year. But more specifically, LSU's loss of Bo Davis is enormous. Not even so much from a development standpoint, getting the guys to play hard. He's one of the best in the country at his job. But from a recruiting standpoint in the state of Louisiana, that's also significant. So Bo Davis being gone is big. Yeah, I mean, that guy is, I don't want to say single-handedly responsible for getting Texas in gear, but he played a big role.
Well, and then where was Texas strongest 2 years ago? D-tackle. What was LSU's biggest problem 2 years ago? That was not their biggest problem last year. D-tackle. He's big time, and that's a great get for the Saints and a massive hit to LSU. All right, welcome back in. Hour number 2. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, finishing up our conversation around the NFL Combine and just kind of some of the things that have been leaking out from the NFL Combine. The Cincinnati Bengals, Greg, are prepared to. Can you push all your chips to the middle of the table on a wide receiver when the majority of your chips are already in on your quarterback? How would we reference that? But they are ready to go as all in on Jamar Chase as they can with, I guess, what chips are remaining. Because obviously there are a lot of chips on Joe Burrow's table.
That would be pot committed.
Okay. Well,
it's crazy. Isn't it crazy that receivers are now looking at the possibility of like $40 million a year? Receiver.
Would you not be a little bit wary of doing this when, let's just say, said receiver had like 22 catches for 325 yards and a loss? I mean, you can go out there and have the best day ever, and we don't win. Do you want to put that much into that? If that can realistically take place, I guess is what I'm saying.
I wouldn't, but that's what the market is dictating right now. I mean, it's not like they're doing it because they feel like they owe it to Jamar Chase. Hey, bud, you've been great for us. We'll take care of you.
Just like having you around.
You're just a nice guy.
Duke Tobin, their director of player personnel, said the Bengals are preparing to make wide receiver Jamar Chase the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL. We're going to reward Jamar, he told reporters at the scouting combine. Is it a reward, or is it just, like you said, kind of the market? And if he's better than most others, he should probably get more than most others if you would like to retain his services. Probably what you have to do. I wouldn't call it a reward. I would call it almost necessary if you would like him to continue catching passes from your franchise quarterback. Other people may label it a little bit differently.
A little bit.
And that title, Director of Player Personnel, along with General Manager, something that we are used to hearing in the National Football League. Something that we now look at it and say, that's normal. We know what that is. That normal feels like it is about to be the same in college football, as multiple schools looking into that general manager role. We know that North Carolina, with the hiring of Bill Belichick, made this hire recently and went to the NFL ranks to bring in Michael Lombardi as their GM. Ross Martin, who covers the Tar Heels for 247, Greg, reported yesterday Michael Lombardi is going to make $1.5 million a year at North Carolina.
Not bad if he can get it.
It's pretty good. To watch
what was he doing before that?
To watch film and tell guys that they're not getting more NIL money.
Amazing.
To hit refresh on the transfer portal.
Incredible.
Who's available? Who's available? Who's available? Who's available? Who's available? Who's available?
In fairness,
1.5.
This will sound a little bit crazy, but like, I don't think I'd want that job regardless of what it paid. Could you imagine how miserable that would? Now, watching the tape, that's the fun part. Evaluating the guys, that's the fun part.
I actually thought a lot about this
Having
job.
Unrealistic agents and guys that have no idea what the market indicates. Trying to negotiate potentially against yourself.
I was talking to my wife about this last night because my wife actually ran into Jim Nagy down in Auburn a couple weeks ago. She and our daughter went to a gymnastics meet, and he was there for Parents Weekend. And she had met him when we had been down at the Senior Bowl Hall of Fame banquet a couple of times. And I was like, wow, we haven't said this on the show yet, but Jim Nagy is taking the general manager role with Oklahoma. One of the reasons that we wanted to have this conversation. So he is going to be gone from the Senior Bowl. Which is going to be a big vacancy. And obviously Senior Bowl in great health. Senior Bowl has become must-see TV and must-see in person for the scouting combine and the draft process. But he's going to move on now and be the GM at Oklahoma. And she's like, why? What does that mean? Like, what's he going to do? And I said, it's a laundry list of things, some of which we just stated. I said, but to be honest with you, I said, I really do believe the most important portion of this is going to be the go-between between the collective, the agents, and the head coach. So when said player comes down to the office and says, hey, coach, I'm starting, so-and-so's getting more NIL than me, not playing until I'm getting more than him. The coach can say, that's great, Billy. if you could go down to Jim's office, 3 doors down, he would love to have a conversation with you about that. Therefore, head coach, never the bad guy. It takes being the bad guy away from the head coach often,
Correct.
a lot, in a lot of uncomfortable conversations, in a lot of conversations that are going to make guys mad, and a lot of conversations that are going to make guys frown and hit the portal. They can let somebody else do that.
Yes.
So then they can't go back in recruiting and say, well, look what coach so-and-so did to me in NIL. Or look what coach told me and then didn't come through on. It removes all of that from the head coach, which is brilliant, by the way, but it doesn't make it more fun for the GM that has to do it on a regular basis.
Correct. It removes culpability from the head coach, which is pretty awesome. I mean, I'm not sure
if you're the head coach.
I'm not sure it's possible to have a more awesome setup than that if you're the head coach. Hang on, so I can make $10 million a year. I want to negotiate these guys. Perfect. Done. You got my attention. But at the same time, man, let's be real.
Coach, why am I not starting? If you could head down to Jim's office at 304 to take a left, he would love to talk to you about that.
Correct. Think about that though. Like the GM is responsible for delivering the bad news. He's the get back coach for the agents and the players, which is a vital role nowadays if you want your coach to have a good relationship with his players. You have to, because these players are unrealistic. In the NFL, it's put up or shut up. You don't perform, you know where you're going.
Yeah.
Bring your playbook with you. All right? Pretty simple. In college, it's like these guys all think they're amazing. They're not. A lot of them aren't that good in some cases. You think about how many great players are on each roster. It's not as many as you think.
No, and you can imagine with the people that you're talking about dealing with, we've seen multiple stories out about most of the agents that are managing a lot of the things for these college kids are not the same that we talk about with the NFL draft and in the NFL. And like, they're not going to be dealing with the number 1 pick and Jamar Chase's contract. These are just different kind of guys. And then also you've got your hanger-oners is still at this level where 7-on-7 coaches, high school coaches, aunts, uncles, grandparents, parents, uncles, cousins. It's got, there are portions of it that have got to be a lot. And so to take that off the head coach is great, but to be the one that has to deal with it, not as great. But then at the same time, I sat and started thinking about, all right, what does this role look like on a day-to-day basis? Like if you're the head coach and you're out at practice and your general manager comes out to practice, what are you thinking? I don't care if you see my team. You need to be in there looking at other guys. You need to be in there looking at our next potential guys.
Why do you not want them to come to your practice, though, just to kind of see how guys operate?
But these are just the thoughts that I was having of like, what does the general manager for a college football team's day-to-day look like? Like, are they at practice every day?
Yeah, I bet they're at practice every day. I bet they're talking to high school coaches that come to practice on a regular basis. These are in the spring mostly. Obviously, in the fall, the high school coaches are responsible with their own teams, so they're probably not going to be out there very often. But I think they're probably trying to create a relationship with high school guys, create a relationship with college scouts. You come back, we'll take care of you, get you the film, get you what you need so that you can evaluate our guys. And then I think majority of the time is probably having a team that watches games and keeps an eye on players that might be pretty good at other points. But I would think that during the season, it's all high school ball. And then in the offseason, the second guys hit the portal, you have guys ready to go to watch tape.
Where is this title going to go in college football? Is this going to continue to grow? Is this going to continue to be must-have? Are we going to have assistant GMs, or is the general manager going to have his army of people at these schools? Where are we headed next with sort of this part of college football programs?
I mean, I think we're already there. I mean, what is there a next step? What is
there
the
not a
next
ton
step?
of teams that have named one?
Maybe not name one in title, but there's a lot of people that are serving in this role and in this capacity. Yeah.
Are these going to become sort of departments of big time college athletic programs, college football programs, where, you know, Jim Nagy has his sort of wing of the building where he has 3 or 4 guys under him, and they all meet every morning and they have a team instead of just a guy who does all these random things?
I think they'll probably have a small department. if I were to guess, of volunteers. Guys that can be reassigned. So you'll have your volunteers that during the season they work on scouting. And then in the off season, they transition to player
Think about
personnel.
what you're saying right there, though. Like when Jim Nagy's with the Senior Bowl, he goes and scouts guys that he wants to invite to the Senior Bowl. Okay, when our buddy Kevin Weidel goes out and scouts players at Alabama or LSU or Troy or UAB, he's scouting guys that the Ravens might want to draft. If Greg McElroy is the GM at Alabama, who are you scouting?
Nobody. I'm scouting
all of them? You're just watching all of them?
High school players, I think, at this point.
But that's what your recruiters do.
Yeah, are
you literally just watching all the college football film you can based on who might go into the portal?
Based on what I've been told, guys are trying to renegotiate their deal multiple times a week in some cases. Seriously.
Okay. I have
as backwards as that sounds.
No, it's not.
That's a real thing.
No, you and I have shared multiple stories along those lines.
That's why Saban retired, because guys coming off a Rose Bowl loss walked into his office like 4 times in a week trying to re-up from the re-up that they already got 2 days before. Like, I think that's ultimately what drove him out the door. He's like, I'm not doing this anymore.
Okay.
It's unbelievable.
So I have some things right along those lines that we need to discuss. Some of what is happening in college football right now. There are a couple of coaches that have shared some stories with certain reporters on tampering and other things that are taking place that may or may not surprise you about how college football is operating behind the scenes. I want to have that conversation. I want to get feedback from the listeners. 800-239-9569, 800-239-WJOX. The GM role. And the reason that I thought this GM conversation was interesting, Greg, is that it feels like a lot of people are discussing it as very important right now, but we have no idea. We don't know how important it is.
Yeah.
I haven't been around long enough for anybody to really know. But you have to have one, or you have to go get a good one, or make sure you got to. We don't know who's going to be good at this.
Yeah, what's good?
We have no idea.
Like, is Lombardi good in the NFL? I don't even know. I'm not asking the question. I seriously don't even know.
You know who the guys that are good, that get the good quarterbacks?
Oh.
I mean, how many people are doing their due diligence on general managers going back and saying, all right, let's pick apart these drafts. Who'd they get in the 4th and the 5th that nobody want? Oh, wow, they got that guy and that guy. Oh, he was a 10-year starter at guard, and they took him in the 7th? Nobody knows. The guys that are good are probably the ones that are employed, that aren't getting fired. And usually the ones that stay employed are the ones who the early picks don't turn into busts. So I just think it's interesting because we talk about this position like, oh, it's must have. It's so important. Who's it going to be? We don't know what it is. We don't know what it's going to be. And I'm sure it's very different at different places.
Sure.
So, but there are some other things happening behind the scenes in college football that I want to get to. We'll move on to that. But if you're looking to move out of your house, who should you call?
Be Crocker Moving Services. They're a local company owned by an Iraq War veteran, Eric Crocker. Crocker believes in hiring movers you can trust to complete full background checks and run drug tests on every single employee. These are good guys, and you can trust them in your home. Whether you need your whole home packed up and moved, your company headquarters moved across country, or you just want them to come rearrange your living room, these guys got you covered. They also do deliveries for furniture that you've purchased and need to get to your home. So call or visit them online today for a free quote. The website is crockermovingservices.com. That's crockermovingservices.com. Support your veterans by choosing Crocker Moving Services for your next move.
All right, we've got another general manager that has been announced to a big-time college football program. We'll tell you who that is, where that is, and some behind the scenes of how college football is currently operating. We'll discuss that next on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. what is happening behind the scenes currently in college football? How bad is it? The tampering, the recruiting, the seeking out individuals maybe that are on other rosters to potentially come and be a part of yours. We've heard stories about it. We've shared stories about it here on the show as to just kind of how things look, how things are going. Quickly, some portal updates, as also Penn State has hired Trace McSorley as their assistant quarterback coach. So Penn State adding a couple of all-time greats to their current staff. Tennessee's added Seth Luttrell as an offensive assistant. Those two played college football together at Oklahoma, so that one kind of makes sense. We mentioned Peter Sermon's going to leave for the Saints. Bo Davis going to leave the Saints. That's Cal and LSU. Starting quarterback Ricky Gibson is going to hit the portal as well out of Tennessee, GMAC. That's a secondary that you already have concerns about, and now they're going to lose another starter.
Well, Ricky Gibson being gone, and I do think he's the lesser of the two corners. But with Jermod McCoy a little banged up coming back, like there's some question marks there. I mean, Jermod McCoy got hurt what week? I'm trying to think of what week he got hurt. Yeah, he hurt himself he tore his ACL. So Jermod McCoy, he tore his ACL during an off-season training session at his home in Texas. So we don't have the exact date of that, but that was tweeted out on January 15th. So Jermod McCoy being out, and now you lose your number 2 corner. That could be a bit of a problem if Jermod McCoy can't come back and be at 100%.
Also, Nebraska hiring Pat Stewart as their general manager, over 15 years of experience in NFL front office as a director of player personnel, Patriots, Panthers. So another college football program taking a former NFL guy, putting him in that seat to allow him to be able to manage a lot of what's happening behind the scenes and, I guess, in front of the scenes in college football. Steve Spurrier Jr. going to join the staff from Billy Napier at Florida.
Where was Steve Spurrier Jr.? Is he at Oklahoma?
At one point in time, he was. He was actually in the XFL and UFL. He was at Arlington.
Oh, he's still there?
Yeah, because I talked to him on the sideline a couple of times at Arlington. I don't know if he was somewhere this past year that was different
Tulsa.
than that. Yeah. So Pete Nakos on 3 has an article out now, tampering for the spring portal and how that has begun. Here is a quote from, or a snippet from the story, from an ACC NIL collective employee, person, involvement T, someone involved with an ACC NIL collective. I'm already getting text messages. You know, when you pull up ESPN and get that stat line, I probably get 10 to 15 of those a day. And it's just like, do you guys have any interest in this kid? Hey, this kid will get in the spring portal. What would you pay them? Agents are just shopping. They're hustling. It's become part of the nature of college football at this point. If you're not reaching out to agents, getting an idea of who they have, who they might be moving, or who they've been talking to, then you're probably not doing your job. Right now in the portal, you can sign your team to a new contract, but that doesn't mean expletive until you get through the spring. Now, yesterday, Georgia State quarterback Zach Gibson, Penn State edge Smith Vilbert, Alabama State defensive tackle Elijah Etienne, all announced that they're going to hit the portal. Vanderbilt gets a commitment from South Dakota offensive tackle Bryce Hudson, 6'8", 320, 14 starts at right tackle last year. And Boise gets former Notre Dame quarterback Jaden Mickey. That's portal news happening right now, here in the middle of February.
Where is the kid that went to Boise, Dante, what's his face? He's like
I'm
the number one. He's like the number Dante Moore or something like that.
You're talking about Malachi Nelson?
Malachi Nelson, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, he's going to New Mexico.
New Mexico
State, whichever one has the good offense.
Well, oh, it says he's going to UTEP now. He changed.
Hit the
I thought he was a 5-star.
Hit the exit before he got there.
But what happened to being a 5-star?
He was, which means he still is.
Ooh.
Some other quotes coming out of this when asking about tampering from this story at On3 and Pete Nakos. I don't know anybody that doesn't. Group of 5 teams are doing it on expletive group of 5 teams. Quote, if you're not tampering, you're putting your program and university at a disadvantage to win games. You believe that? If you are not tampering, you're putting your program and university at a disadvantage to win games.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of align with that. I hate that that's the case, but it's the truth. If people are going to tamper around you, you could get passed in the event in which you are, you know, in the event in which you are doing your thing and everyone else is cheating. I mean, yeah, I think you kind of have to keep up with the Joneses. Why do you think we haven't had anybody call out tampering? Why? How come all these coaches that say, oh, well, we're going to just call out teams individually for doing this and this and this? How come no one's done it? Why do you think that is? What's your reasoning behind it? Because you don't cast stones in glass houses when you are participating in the same thing that you are trying to discourage because you don't have a choice. Like
also define tampering.
Well, you can't.
If you are reading text messages from agents of who they represent that may want to go to the spring portal, is that tampering?
You can't. I mean, you literally can't define tampering.
So, but I think there are a lot of people, Greg, that have tampering in this, like they have this tunnel vision with tampering, and they think tampering is just, I call your dorm room. I'm the quarterback coach at Maryland, and I call your dorm room after practice one day and say, hey, do you want to come play for us next year? Yes or no? Check one box and fold the note and send it back to me.
Well, you remember
it's not just that. There's a lot more that goes into this when referencing tampering and how it works and how it operates.
For sure, there's a whole nother level of this. But remember, when thinking about tampering and all that other stuff, like, remember when what's-his-face, the tackle.
How many what's-his-faces are we referencing on the show today?
For Bam, a lot. Enough of them. Caden Proctor.
Jonah Williams.
Caden Proctor. Caden Proctor had a coach from Iowa. Remember this.
Yep.
Reach out after he had a couple bad games in a row and said, hang in there. You're going to be fine. Hang in there, bud. You're going to be fine. And everyone here listen to this show. Oh,
tampering.
How about no? It's not tampering. He's not trying to get a guy to come back to school. He's maintaining a relationship in the event in which he ever hit the portal. I don't blame him for that. I feel like that's cheating. But
if that's tampering, then yeah, it's beyond widespread. It's literally, let's find the percentage of guys that don't do it, and that's going to be minimal.
None. And by the way, is that tampering by being a good person?
Some people might say yes, because some people just don't believe that your intentions are going to be good in that instance.
Well, that's fine, but I don't feel like that's a negative. Like, we should not be discouraging. Like, that is making a mountain out of a molehill. That's nothing. But it's the guys who are actively telling agents, hey, we are in need of a safety. Go get me one. That's the problem. But the agent serves as the intermediary, so it doesn't really matter. There's no direct line of communication to the player. It's all done by way of a third party, which is why they'll never get anybody.
So we'll take this a little step further on the other side. If all of this is real, you and I both believe it is. We're not just coming up with things to say. These are based on conversations that we've had and how things are operating and what's going on. Let me sort of ask you this part of it. Is there an answer to it? Is there a solution to it? Is there a way to just mitigate a lot of this? We'll continue that conversation. You can be a part. 800-239-9569. You can text into the show. 205-834-9450. How do you view tampering in college football? Do you think it's something that can be slowed to a certain extent? And do you think that when you look at where it's headed in the future, is it going to get worse? Is it going to get better? Before we do that, I'll tell you about Your CBD Store. If you're looking for a better night's sleep, Your CBD Store has answers. Maybe losing some weight. The Trim by SunMed is on the shelves now at the largest brick and mortar CBD retailer on planet Earth. You stop by one of their 3 locations today. They're going to have products that can help you with your daily routine at Your CBD Store. Whether you need better focus throughout the course of the day, more energy throughout the course of the day, you need help with your skincare, your gut health, you or your pet, arthritis, if you're having trouble getting around, or a pet in your house is, Your CBD Store has answers. First company to have USDA certified organic oil supplements. They have the stamp seal on those products. so they meet and achieve a certain set of standards. Stop by Highway 280, 150 by the Cage in Cleaver, Trustful just off 459 today, and see what your CBD store can do for you. More on tampering in college football next on Mac and Cube in the morning. $8:31 Thursday, February 27th, right here on Jocks 94.5. Where do we go next in the transfer portal era as it pertains to tampering? Can it be mitigated? Can it be slowed down? Can it be put in check, so to speak? We'll get to that. Get to your calls if you want here in just a moment. 800-239-9569. Text into the show, 205-834-9450. Tweet into the show at Mac and Cube. Listen live, jocksfm.com. You can watch live on YouTube every morning. Search Jocks 945.
Bill said Buick GMC is the GMC Dealer of the Year again. That's 5 in a row. They won 2024 last year. National champs 5 times. They've won the national championship of GMC dealers. I'm actually on their website right now. It's amazing some of the deals that they have on the lot. You can go get yourself a GMC Sierra 2025 1500. It's a beautiful vehicle. $65,785 is the list price. You get it at Bill Smith for $53,795. That's a savings of $12,000 on a beautiful white GMC Sierra with the SLT trim. It's an awesome vehicle, and there's a reason why 75% of their business is repeat customers. That's because you have a better experience when you shop with Bill Smith. So go take the short drive up to Coleman. Go see Andy Cole. Go see Jonathan Yeager. You'll see what I'm talking about. You're going to have a better experience when you shop with Bill Smith. Take the short drive up to Coleman. You'll be glad you did. You can also shop online. Have delivered right to your driveway at Bill Smith Buick, GMC.com.
Remind me, there was a tweet that came in about a topic earlier today that I want to go back to and read, but I don't want to get distracted off what we were just referencing right now, and that is the transfer portal and tampering. And there's a story at On3 about with quotes from different coaches, administrators, people involved with collectives of how things are operating and what's going on. But there's a Pistol Pete quote that I want to get back to. Maybe we do it next hour. Royal Payne tweeting in, I think finding a way to get one portal window a year would solve a lot of problems if you picked the right date. Then you can try to emulate the NFL free agency model. Not saying it would be easy legally, which would be a big problem, but it's a great idea and I think a great thought. Jolly tweets in regards to tampering, short of penalizing a transferring player with a loss of your eligibility, is there really any way to penalize it? I mean, they can't even deter fans from storming the field, so how are you going to enforce allegations and hearsay? It's what we said when a lot of this came down and some of the NIL stuff and all the different states were saying, hey, we're going to be, it's going to be a federal crime if you do this and do that with NIL and prove it. Prove it. And you're not going to be able to. Same thing with a lot of the tampering stuff.
Probably
you tampered. Prove it. Okay, I had a regular conversation with the kid that I've shared text messages with for the last 7 years. Sorry, you're not going to get me in court on that one.
It's going to be tough.
It's not going to be a real thing. So is the easy answer there, Greg, one portal window? I do think that that's a great thought, and that's definitely one place that my brain goes when we talk about this. But I also think it's a fair point discussing the legal aspects of that. Because Thomas Mars is still floating around there somewhere looking to sue the NCAA because I don't think he works for him anymore.
Definitely doesn't work for him anymore.
You got to be careful.
I think you do, but you also need to understand that at some point, man, like there's going to be a little bit of give and take. Like this whole continuation of the players being able to do whatever they want with no consequences, this will come back to earth. If you look at who's in power right now in DC, there's a lot of reason to believe that they could get behind a little bit of a more conservative approach to college athletics. Like they could definitely do that. I'm not saying that's a priority right now. I don't think it is at all. But at some point, it's going to stop unraveling. Like it's gotten out of control with the amount of money that these guys are making and the amount of deals that are going down. There's going to have to be some type of antitrust, probably. But we might get there. That could happen. Because college athletics is a portion of our culture. It's Americana. And I think that there would be enough momentum, depending on who's in charge, to potentially reshape college athletics as we know it.
Right. It's going to be interesting to see if there are some things from a government's perspective that could help offset a little bit of it. And I think we might be closer to that potentially now than we have been. Don't want to have a conversation that would be normally reserved for down the hall, but I feel like this administration is probably a little more likely to help that happen. That has
something to do with it. I mean, I don't want to talk politics.
I don't either. I'm not going to.
I don't want to talk about that. That's no fun. But they're the ones that are potentially going to usher in and codify a bill that is going to reflect the House settlement, which is going into effect this year. And the people that are in charge are going to have a huge say. And right now, the people who are in charge are conservative, which would be more pro university as opposed to pro player. So we'll see what happens, but I think there's reason to believe there could be adjustments made here soon.
From the perspective of outside of one portal window, is there another rule or aspect that you feel like could be altered, changed to be able to limit some of this? Because let's be honest, I think even if you're talking about conferences taking over, like Brian Kelly's quotes the other day when he was talking about after revenue sharing comes and, some of these arms that are going to enforce different things, like there will be real enforcement. Okay, I'll believe it when I see it. Just going to be honest with you. I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah.
Because there's, number one, Greg, there's too much to enforce. How are you going to enforce all this?
I'm not sure. The portal window makes a lot of sense, though. I mean, that feels pretty easy. Just to revamp the calendar. That's it. Make it a little bit more digestible. For players too, by the way. I mean, if you want to sign in June, what should stop you? You should be able to sign in June if you want to sign in June. And if you want it out of the way, that's great. You can go ahead and do that. But having the portal window open multiple times a year, having the portal window open while teams are still playing, it's bad ball.
And it just doesn't feel like that immediately is going to change too much. And I think coaches are realizing that there's more that they can get away with. So they're more likely to be a little bit more high risk with how they communicate, how they operate. And there are more folks that look at it from the perspective of the quote that we saw from the ACC collective member. Hey, if you're not doing this, you're putting your program at harm. I think that's the thought process for a lot of people involved in college football right now. If we're not doing this, then we're not getting ahead. If we're not getting ahead, we're not giving ourselves a chance to go out there and win football games. From same story, a Big Ten staffer said, I don't know anybody that doesn't. There's a whole league right above us that does it the right way, and you're refusing to go to them for help.
Yeah.
Obviously referencing the NFL. A Big 12 staffer. Every day we're dealing with it. If they had things in place where you didn't need to tamper, I don't think people would. People want to follow the rules, but they want to win more. And right now, if you're not tampering, you're not winning.
Isn't that sad?
Do people want to follow the rules?
No. I think coaches want to take shortcuts sometimes. I don't really blame them.
It's just people in general, not necessarily coaches.
No, I'm just talking as it relates to this conversation. Like I don't think coaches want to follow the rules all the time. I think coaches want to win, and whatever it takes to win, they're willing to do. It doesn't make them. By the way, it's not like people think that this is some morality. It's not morality. It's literally war. Like in their eyes, it's war. All is fair. I mean, it's the reality. That's the reality. So is it blatant in some cases? Sure. Absolutely.
Agent in story quoted as saying, you almost have to temper a lot of these guys, know where they're going to go. With a couple weeks left in the season, people blame it on agents, but it's the teams too. To be a top-level school, you have to do it. That's the only way to get ahead of things with this current model. It's vital for teams to be successful, and if you're not tampering, you're going to lose. The only schools who are going to say that they don't tamper are the ones who are, I'll paraphrase here, not doing well in the portal. Big Ten NIL collective staffer. It doesn't feel like there are a lot of actual rules around tampering because it's so common. It's just pretty casual. There's nothing that actually dropped that can really govern it. There are so many ways for the information to flow. It's not even just agents. It's family members. It's teammates of guys. It's high school coaches, 7-on-7. A lot of times,
think about teammates tampering with teammates.
Teammates sharing information that so-and-so might be leaving. A lot of times the kid doesn't even know the agent is shopping them around. Think about that. You get a call from a coach that recruited you and like, hey, Vinny said you're on the market. I'm sorry, what? Yeah, your agent.
Say what?
He told us that we should be looking into bringing you here.
Why is your agent got to be named Vinny?
I'm not in the portal. I'm starting at corner. Yeah, but
I can get you this.
Big 12 staffer. That's the majority of it. That's how everyone's doing it. The agents. You can't do anything with them NCAA wise. Everything,
yeah, you can.
Everything these days is agents and high school coaches, but sometimes it's not even the agent. It's 7-on-7 guys. There's no way to police it right now.
That is not accurate. That's another way that you curb the behavior. Guess what? If you want to be in representation, we have a laundry list of things that you need to do in order to be in representation. And that can be done by the NFL. The NFL can be helpful in that, and the NCAA can be helpful in that. Guess what? You want to represent players? You want to go to the table on players' behalf? You know, in the NFL, you have to have a graduate degree. You have to have been to 4 years, 4-year college, and have a graduate degree, and passed a battery of tests to make sure that you know the rules and that you are going to act in some cases as a fiduciary. Like, these are things that are all manageable, but they won't do it. Like, you want to start curbing the behavior, go and get good, solid representation. People that are pros, not Johnny from down the street that will rep me for 1% as opposed to the 3 that the notable agents will take.
It's just, it feels when you read some of these quotes and you hear some people talking about it, yes, there are some maybe quasi solutions that sound simple, but then also you begin to hear how convoluted the whole thing is. And I keep coming back to some sort of a reset that's going to have to take place to really get it under control. There are things that I feel like could wrangle it to an extent, but not stop it. And let's be honest, the path you were going down, the main reason is the lack of enforcement. Who can enforce right now?
Nobody can enforce, but I don't expect them to enforce. But if we could just clean up the people that are becoming agents, I think that would help. Or at least make there be a few guardrails to those that are acting on behalf of players. And like you said, it could be family members and other stuff like that. You can't get rid of that. That is what it is. But guess what? You deal with that in the NFL too. Like my uncle thinks I should be making $52 million a year playing quarterback. Well, you know what? The market doesn't indicate that, big guy.
Yep.
Doesn't work that way. I'm glad your uncle loves you. That's amazing. But sorry, we don't play.
Yesterday, we ran through some of the production returners in college football. Didn't get to some of the Southeastern Conference teams that we wanted to, though. Let's begin to take a look at some of those and have a conversation about what offenses and defenses in the Southeastern Conference we believe are going to improve or maybe fall backwards. And we'll give you some added value here on Jocks. I'd like to introduce you to our friend and wealth advisor, Tad Hill, a trusted retirement planning partner. Tad's the co-host of the Retire with Freedom radio and TV shows in Birmingham and Huntsville. Also designated by Forbes as the #1 financial securities professional in the state of Alabama multiple years running. Tad, what do you have for us today?
Thanks, Cole. What I want to do today is talk about the foundation of retirement planning, which is income planning. And what income planning boils down to is how are you going to replace the income that you need in retirement once your paychecks stop? First, we have to figure out exactly how much are you going to need from your savings and investments. We need to start with how much is going out the door, and then exactly what can you expect from sources of income like Social Security and pension. And then the conversation shifts to what are the strategies that you can employ to ensure that you don't run out of income in retirement. All of these are things that we cover in detail in our Retire with Freedom course that we teach in our office on Valleydale Road. If you would like to get signed up for that, text JOX, J-O-X, to 205-988-0006. That's 988-0006.
This is a paid placement. Investment advisory services are made available through AE Wealth Management. For more information about Forbes rankings, visit Forbes.com.
All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, 8:48, Thursday, February 27th, right here on Jocks 94.5. I want to go back to returning production charts that we discussed yesterday. Bill Connolly has these out at ESPN.com, and you can take a look and see just kind of where certain teams fall. We were surprised at a few of the teams, not all the teams, that were towards the top of that yesterday. And a couple of SEC teams that we didn't really get to, and wanted to begin to dial into a couple other of those because there were some that were somewhat surprising, Greg, and then others that we kind of knew would be where they were. From an SEC team's perspective, who sort of surprises you as to where they fall on Bill Connolly's returning production chart?
Well, I would say Florida was a little surprised. I know they're up there. I just thought they'd be up there higher. I don't know if you look at it that way. I just don't remember anybody of significance that is not going to be back for the Gators this year. I don't know if there's anyone that you can think, okay, so they lost a couple guys in the portal, but Montrell Johnson, I guess, is like the one guy maybe.
Montrell would be of concern.
That's about it, though. I mean, I just thought Florida would be like a top 5 in the SEC, or a top 5 in the country, and they're at 18th. A little surprising.
A little bit.
So that was one that surprised me. And the other one was Oklahoma. Oklahoma is also sitting at 10. I feel like with some of the personnel they lost on defense,
it doesn't feel possible, honestly.
I'm amazed that on defense alone, if we look at just their defensive rankings, they returned 60% of their defensive production. I feel like they lost everybody up front defensively in the front 7.
And even though you're probably not going to put too much into Jackson Arnold's loss because there was some bad football that came with the good, he did give you production, and he's gone. Now you bring in John Mateer, and that's gonna offset a lot of that because he obviously had massive production.
Right,
somebody that's going to give you a lot more. But one team that I did want to take a look at because we've seen some commentary coming out from their head coach recently was LSU, and Brian Kelly has said that Whit Weeks, Harold Perkins are in line to be available for fall practice, on track to being healthy for spring practice, but will not go through spring practice.
Yeah.
Now they're 38th nationally with 65% of their offensive production back, 59% of their defensive production back. Now Harold Perkins didn't play a lot last year, so maybe that's a reason why that's a little bit low and could be a lot higher this year. Now we know Bo Davis also going to be gone on that staff. Just from a defensive perspective, what are sort of your expectations for LSU next year? Because I thought Blake Baker did a good job. It looked a lot better than it did the year before, and I think has a chance to potentially be better under him year 2, but still don't know how good that's actually going to be.
Yeah, I think they're going to be better. Just pure understanding of personnel. He's going to have a better feel for what his guys can do, and I think he's going to be even more confident in letting Whit Weeks continue to grow on the. Now, I know Whit Weeks got banged up. He's hurt, but he'll be back. That's no concerns whatsoever with what he dealt with in the bowl game and the injury that he sustained. But I'm still pretty optimistic about how they performed last year when it was a completely new system. I mean, completely new system. And yet, they looked like they were in complete control. I felt pretty good about how they performed last year.
They've got some guys that sort of individually scare you, individually can do a lot. I just wonder how it's all going to fit together. Like Jack Pyburn from Florida has some really good reps out there. But he kind of reminds you of Chambliss a little bit at Georgia, where he freelances sometimes and maybe just, plays a little bit of Neanderthal football that's not necessarily what the defense asks.
Come on.
Maybe he's a better fit in this system where you get a little bit of that Joe Lee done every now and then of, hey, just see ball, get ball, guys, like figure it out. We're just going to cut y'all loose and wreak havoc, and that'll be sort of what leads to our success. Like, I don't really know how I think Patrick Payton can be a good fit. He's played some really good football in his career. I don't know consistently how great a football he's played, but he's got good length. He's been productive. He can get to the quarterback. And we did see sort of 4-down defensive ends have some success there. with guys that could sort of line up out on the edge and be problematic, even though they're not going to be that all the time. Like Savion Jones was sort of that guy for him. Not super twitchy, but heavy-handed that could live outside a little bit. You know, Braden Swinson did some really – I think Braden Swinson got a lot better in the 2 years he was there at LSU. And he was that guy that had a little bit more outside off the edge. But then what is Harold Perkins? I think Harold Perkins is awesome. I think he has a chance to be great, but what is he and what is he going to be?
He's super explosive, but he's just not a super instinctive football player at this point of his career. He's unbelievably explosive.
One trick pony, essentially?
No, he's just a see ball, get ball, like run and hit guy, which is, by the way, a tremendous quality. Like, I'd rather have a guy that can run and hit. I'll teach him to find the ball. He just doesn't find the ball with great regularity.
Let me ask you this.
I think he's an edge defender that they're trying to make more involved on every play, and that's just not his best attribute.
The way you described him as sort of see ball, get ball guy or a run and hit guy.
Yeah.
How different from the...
First of all, do you disagree?
No.
Okay.
I wouldn't even say run and hit guy. I would say more rush the passer guy.
So, like,
how many big hits does he have not on quarterbacks?
That's the problem, is he's a pass rusher. He's an edge defender that can't play the run.
Yeah, he can't set the edge.
So, like, what are we doing? I mean, seriously, I don't know.
think they know. I don't know if he knows. But
He's
you
like
got to get him involved.
tweener.
Yeah, you got to get him involved because he can be a playmaker. He can be big time.
Huge playmaker.
You were on
Great
the call
player.
for the game that he essentially broke out and took over against Arkansas.
Yes.
But how different from the read and react or decipher things or read your keys kind of a guy is Whit Weeks than him? Because, see, I almost kind of look at Whit Weeks as
He's a kamikaze pilot.
yes.
Like, but he's just way more violent than Harold Perkins.
Yeah, he does in a lot of different areas. Yes.
He's just violent. Like, when Whit Weeks hits you, he's knocking you back. That's not always the case with Harold Perkins.
So I almost am pushing myself into more confusion here as to what we're going to get with LSU next year, because we know what that defense is under Blake Baker.
Right.
It can be one that wreaks havoc. It can be one that can confuse, one that can force you into just being wrong a lot of the times. It doesn't necessarily have to be guys winning one-on-ones. They can just overwhelm you. Are they going to have a lot of guys that are capable of doing that better than some other guys? And is that going to work? Or are they not going to have enough guys that can actually figure out how things are operating and that works against them? Like, I guess, do they have the right fits to make this defense really good? They got good players.
Of course they got good players. But I don't know if I know the answer to that.
Because I look at Pyburn, I look at Perkins, I look at Weeks, and I look.
But were we talking about, like, honest question, were we talking at all last year about Braden Swinson? Like, this time last year, we weren't talking about him
Not
at all.
much. I did see some flashes of him at the end of the previous year, but he changed his body and his
He was not a
flexibility
topic of
before this year.
discussion
Right.
at all.
And he had a good year.
He's a great player. So if they can do that with him, there's probably another guy waiting. It is LSU after all.
Could. And can they overcome some of the defensive tackle issues that they had going into last year with a little bit more depth this year? We'll talk more about returning production in college football next on Mac and Cube in the morning. Hour number 3 underway, Thursday, February 27th, right here on Jocks 94.5. We will leave the conversation of returning production in college football. Some of these just a little bit cloudy too, Greg, like Mississippi State at 37.
Yeah.
You lose your quarterback, you lose your top 2 receivers. Like,
I'm telling you,
having guys back on defense, is that a good thing?
I don't know how they come up with some of these. I'm not trying to I'm not saying they're wrong. I think they're 100% true. But man alive, it's hard to figure out where the value is on a few of these.
It's a little bit odd.
I mean, at Mississippi State, I would be like, they lost everybody.
I wouldn't have had them. Like you said, with Oklahoma at 10, I would have said, how?
Yes.
How?
Exactly.
All right, we'll leave college football now, go back to college basketball, talk Auburn's win last night, discuss both teams' big games coming up this weekend with the coach, Wim Sanderson, who joins us each and every week thanks to our friends at Coke and Piggly Wiggly. Coach, great to have you in. How are you today? How are we, Coach? We will work on a better connection there for Coach Sanderson. See if we can't get him fired up on another line, possibly.
Get him all jacked up.
Talk some Auburn, Alabama basketball as the Auburn Tigers, after taking down Ole Miss 106-76 last night. Janai Broome, 24-9, 10 of 12 from the free throw line, 2 blocks, 4 assists. Auburn led by 33 at one point. 86th player ever with 2,500 points in his career. Janai Broome now is in the history of Division I basketball. As the coach, Wim Sanderson, with us. Coach, you there?
Yeah, I thought maybe you were going to ask me about when I played in the state basketball tournament. Since you're not going to ask me that, I guess I have to talk about Auburn.
How many teams were in the field for that tournament?
A bunch of them. Saying the number now. And guess what? And neither one of you get it. Neither one of you appreciate it. I played against the starting quarterback for Alabama when Coach Bryant transferred from Texas A&M to Alabama. His starting quarterback was on that team. And I played against him that day, and he was really a good player. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Oh yeah,
we appreciate it, Coach.
I got a bad cell. If I lose you, I'll go back to cells. I mean, my cell phone. But anyway, I won't tell that story. Auburn last night, really good against Ole Miss. Ole Miss hard to play. Auburn's really, really good. Play Saturday afternoon at Kentucky. Be a hard game for them, much harder than most people think. But Auburn, 14-1, sitting in good shape. They got to go to A&M after that, and of course the Alabama-Auburn game, which they've already beaten Alabama once, is big in the last game of the season. So Auburn has had a great year. He's done a great job with them. I'm fixing to lose his cotton picking phone, I'm afraid, but he has absolutely done a great job with them. And Broome is terrific, and they have played together so well. Alabama's played well, had a great season. Is having a great season. Wore it out against Ole Miss, against Mississippi State. They've got Florida at home. Got to go to Tennessee, which will be a pretty tough game for them. And then, of course, the Auburn game will end up the season. I want to talk next week about the SEC tournament with you. I'm not going to talk about it now, what it takes to win it. And I'm not here to brag, but we did well in it. And and there's some wise, good players was the main reason. But I'll save the tournament for next week to talk about it. But right now, these two teams in the state of Alabama, plus Bucky's done a great job at Samford, and a lot of the teams have done great. So it's going to be.
Well, North Alabama's got 22 wins. South Alabama, 20
my
wins.
Old place. Yeah, my old place has gotten. That's where I'm from, up in Florence, and of course Florence is playing today in the state tournament. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. 14-1 right now for Auburn. Alabama's down a little bit, second place. They're in Florida, so we'll see what happens.
Coach, we were talking about Chad Baker-Mazar earlier on the show,
Yeah.
and just What does he need to be for this, or maybe not need to be for this team in the postseason to make a real run?
He needs to be just as active as he is, with being very, very careful that he doesn't be so overactive that the officials get him. I think that's what happened to him. Can you hear me?
We got you. Yes, sir.
That's what happened to him in the Yale game. He got over. He's very active. He's just good enough to make you mad when you're playing against him, and that's a real factor there. When he can really shoot the basketball. You're going down and you need a shot. You get it to him because one thing about it, he takes it to the basket and they foul him. He's going to make the free throws. He's got a little bit of air about him that makes you mad at when you play him. But I'm telling you right now, the guy can really play. Do you like him if you're an opponent? No, you don't like him. If he's your teammate, you probably do. But he is a very, very good basketball player, and Bruce Pearl has handled him well. Really handled him well, and Bruce gets a lot of credit for overlooking some of those things. The biggest thing he has, to answer your question, is he doesn't need to get himself to the point that the officials are looking for him to call a foul on him or to suspend him or whatever, or call it, a flagrant foul on him or something like that. Yes. How
do you manage a player who you think the officials are kind of out to get like that, or at least keeping a closer eye on?
Say anything to him about it, but I just say you got to play hard without the foul. Foul's a defensive mistake. Play hard without the foul. Keep your arms and hands out of it, and be darn sure that you're not over there reaching too much and giving them a reason to call. They'll talk. The officials talk in the shower before they get out there. They used to talk about me. Watch Wimp. He's going to get out of the box. Let's get him if we can. Talk technical on him, but. Stuff like that. You don't really warn them. You just sort of tell them and have the assistant maybe handle them a little bit better instead of coming from you. Be careful now. Play hard, but don't get yourself in unnecessary foul trouble.
How would you assess what they've been doing the last few weeks from a start standpoint, Coach? I mean, they've come out of the gates outrageously fast the last couple weeks, and it's hard for anybody to really keep pace if they're down 20 within 10 minutes of the ball game.
Well, I think the emphasis has been on play hard, and that sounds silly, but play hard, defend better, play the way I want you to play, take the kind of shots that you need to take, and don't turn it over. If you're going to play that way and you're going to get back defensively, if you're going to really defend hard on a half-court basis, then you're going to play. But we're not going to play people who are out there to fiddle dick around. We're not interested in playing people who are going to get back on defense 80% when you could get back on 100%. Those kinds of things that they realize in keeping their stats as to who's good and who's bad as far as turning the ball over and those kinds of things. They got that corrected. Nate's done a good job there. They've got very good talent, and you've got to have better talent than your opponent and get them to play. So he's got better talent than his opponent, and he's getting them to play. And that's going to be a key. They're going to be hard out. I made a sort of a prediction on my show just to work everybody up that I thought Alabama might beat Tennessee up there. We had a Tennessee guy on. So I don't think so because Tennessee hadn't lost but one game so many years up there. I said, I think Alabama's going to beat them. So we'll see. Not because I coached at Alabama. I don't do that. I ain't into all that. So, but I think he's done a very good job to answer your question by getting these guys to play hard initially, early, shoot the shot and rebound offensively and defensively.
One thing we talked about with Auburn too, Coach, is their starts the last couple of games have just been on fire out of the gate. Can you coach that into a team? How and why does that happen, and why does it consistently happen?
Well, they shoot it well. And in fact, Ole Miss is not too bad defense. They shot it well, got 22-point lead. Got to give Ole Miss some credit. They cut it down to 8 in the first half, and in the second half, Auburn blew them away. But Auburn has good shooters. They have timely shooters. They play together well on the defensive end. They're a smart team. I just think that they've got all intangibles to really be a number one seed. And Alabama club be close to it. So when it comes to NCAA time and tournament time in the SEC, so it should be. That's not any one factor. Is that you just get these guys that are together, playing hard together. You see a basketball game last night, get this one, where the player at Oklahoma transferred to Kentucky. In a one-point game last night, playing now for Kentucky at Oklahoma, got 28 points. You talking, and hugged his old coach after the game was over, and the other players.
Well, there were also some. They had to wave off the handshake line. it wasn't all. Yeah.
No, you don't need.
It wasn't all giggles and hugs after that game.
No, you're right, and I think the factor is that when one of them was up there fixing to shoot the free throw, the other guy on the lane was talking to him.
A lot of talking.
A lot of talking. So I don't know what was said, but Porter Mosier, who was coach at Oklahoma, worked for me for a year, and it was a very interesting situation there. So quite different, and I don't know, but the games Saturday afternoon will be really good. As I said, Auburn still has to go to A&M. A&M, anybody can beat you if you don't play. Anybody can beat you if you're not ready to play. And being ready to play is, as you guys know, having done what you've done, pretty much is a big factor. So we'll see what happens.
What's going on with Arkansas, Coach? They're starting to kind of turn things around, and it's been a little bit of a challenging situation for John Calipari, but they have pros, they have talent. You talk to a lot of folks, and it seems like they're dangerous.
They are dangerous. They don't shoot real well outside. The big guy shot it real well a couple of games. They don't shoot it very well outside. The biggest thing there was, they go to Kentucky and win. To me, that's the biggest win of the year, especially with all the controversy that we had. They go in there and win at Kentucky. When Kentucky was wanting to hate him so much, and wanted to hate him, and really couldn't hate him quite as bad. And Arkansas is okay. Arkansas is not going to be a factor as far as winning the NCAA tournament. They're not quite good enough, they'll get in the NCAA probably. Texas is really struggling. Strength coach out there played for me, and they're really struggling. But Arkansas has gotten a little bit better. They do not shoot it well. If you don't shoot it well, you ain't going to. I don't care how you defend. You can't defend enough to overcome bad shooting.
No, I don't think that's something that's going to be able to happen. One thing I noticed about that Arkansas-Kentucky game last night is after Kentucky came down and made that final shot. It wasn't the final shot because Arkansas had like 4 seconds left on the clock. After Owe made that little floater off the backboard. Oklahoma just brings the ball in and brings up the court and takes a shot. How much time did you spend on that particular situation of who should have the ball, what kind of shot you should take? Nobody has time to discuss anything right there. Like it's literally just a reaction.
Your reaction a lot. In the game, you work with situation basketball. We bring it up. We won't be darn sure we get the right shot at the right time and the right guy shooting it. And sometimes that happens, and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes the defense doesn't guard the guy who doesn't shoot it real well, and you've got to take the shot. But it's a hard deal to come in, and I don't like to come when you get down one. I don't like to get back up there and shoot the quick shot. I like to come down there and take the basketball to the basket, try to draw a foul, try to get an inside close shot, get an offensive rebound, something like that. I don't really. That's a good question, and it's hard to answer because there's really not an answer. You work on situation basketball as best you can, have the right guy shooting at the right time, but sometimes it's like everything else in sports. It doesn't happen the way that you'd like for it to. So anyway, Bobby Skelton was the quarterback at Alabama when I played against him. Since you didn't ask, I'm going to tell you anyway. In the state tournament, I ain't going to tell you what year, when Coach Bryant came back, he was the first quarterback that Alabama had when Coach Bryant came. He was at Pell City, and I was playing for a school called Coffee in Florence. A long time ago, I love to go back to the state tournament because I get to see so many people that I haven't seen in years. So I did want to bring it up anyway.
He was an NFL official also, right?
He was. I've been trying to get him in super. The thing that's hurt me so bad is I've worked really hard to try to get him in the Alabama Sports Hall of Fame. He umpired the Super Bowl. Refereed the Super Bowl. Two or three of the games prior to the Super Bowl. Bobby was a terrific player. And his sister, who's a friend of mine, he told his sister on his deathbed that I'd give anything to be in the Alabama Sports Hall of Fame. And I was on the committee too, and I'd done everything I could do to get him in, and haven't been able to do so. But Bobby Skelton was there when I was playing back in, I won't tell you when. I coached at a small
1958.
Was he a pretty good player, Coach?
1957.
Yeah, you want to ask how many I got? I got 21.
How many rebounds, though?
I didn't get enough rebounds. All that. When many rebounds, when you shoot the way I shot,
That's amazing.
Bobby was a great guy and a great person, and I've done everything I could to try to help him. And one of these days, I'll get him in.
Well, it sounds like he deserves it, Coach. We appreciate the time. We know each and every week you're brought to us by our friends at Coke and Piggly Wiggly.
Coke's the best drink in the world, and Piggly Wiggly are great people. 9 locations in Birmingham, all throughout the state. I go to lunch every week with Sandy Vasiglio, who's one of the big shots in Piggly Wiggly, and I appreciate Piggly Wiggly giving me the opportunity to be on y'all's show. When I went to the state tournament yesterday, I always say, I heard you on. I said, you heard me, those 2 football guys? They said, oh, yeah, I heard you on that. I said, well, I try to ask them a football question so I can get them to talk, and they start laughing. But I didn't have time to ask you a football question today. I got one for next week.
Right. People do listen, Coach. People listen.
There are a couple out there.
By the way, Wimp, I heard you say. I said, who'd you hear me say? He said, oh, I heard Matt and Cube. I said, you listen to it? He said, oh yeah, I listen to it.
Yeah, they're terrible.
Yeah.
Thank you, Coach. We always appreciate it.
Later.
All right. All right. We always appreciate our visits with the coach, Wimp Sanderson. He joins us every Thursday. Thanks to our friends at Coke and Piggly Wiggly. On the other side, retribution, revenge, something that people often seek. I have a guy that set out to do this in a manner that I bet you would never imagine. I'll tell you what it is next on Mac and Cube in the morning. What are some common ways that you think that folks whose maybe brain doesn't operate at normal capacity would come up with to enact revenge on someone or get back at someone?
Ways to find revenge?
If there was a man who attempted to date a woman that she wasn't interested in his services,
services,
and he wanted to get
overtures,
get her back for that. What are some common ways you feel like that might take place?
What would a regular person or what would a dumb person do?
Both.
Yeah.
Either. All. Because I bet I got one that would never cross your mind.
I mean, it makes sense. Go after the friend, maybe a relative or something.
Now, part of this case, which happened in Georgia, I think you probably would say, yeah, I could see a crazy person trying to do that. Georgia man, Stephen Glosser, 38 years old.
Big Steve.
Recently sentenced after he planted an explosive device that blew up part of a woman's home in Richmond Hill, January 13th of 2023. They met on an online dating app. He wanted a relationship. She didn't, essentially, is how that went.
Okay.
He enacted the help of a buddy who ordered some parts online, came up with a way to set off said homemade bomb in the house. Thankfully, neither her or her daughter were injured.
Okay.
However, this was only the beginning of ways that he, and I quote from testimony, meant to kill, intimidate, harass, and injure the victim.
Mm-hmm.
Shot arrows into the woman's front door.
Oh, my gosh.
Mailed dog feces and dead rats to the house.
It's poop again.
Planned on scalping her and detonating her home.
What?
This is from the testimony. But there was one other thing.
Where do you find stuff like
there
this?
Was in the New York Post. There was one other thing,
of course,
that he actually did that intended harm on one of those two individuals that I don't think I don't even want to say normal human. I don't even think most sick humans would think of this. After all those other things were either planned or did happen, there was another act in which Stephen attempted to try and inflict harm on one of these two individuals inside the home. He and unsaid friend, allegedly.
Not just any friend.
I say allegedly, but I do believe he was convicted of this portion as well. Released a python into the home with plans for it to eat the lady's daughter.
Wait, what? How big is a python?
That is not specified in the story, but I also had the same question.
Well, Hogan's are 38 inches, so I guess about that big.
I said that they released a large python into the home with plans that it would eat her daughter. I also do not have age of daughter.
Okay.
Which would be more insane if she were, say, 13, 15, 12 even. 2, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But unfortunately shows you the complete level of insanity of certain folks that we're dealing with.
I mean, what are we doing?
The bomb did detonate, by the way. Now he's going to have to pay $571,000 in restitution back to the lady.
I would hope so.
Well,
I hope she's not planning on seeing that anytime soon.
No.
Don't think that one's going to take place.
I think you'll be all right there.
Yes.
Obviously, this is a completely despicable person and an idiot.
Think?
But he did have one flash of brilliance. You had the friend get the stuff online.
That's where you got to do that.
Had a cleaning crew come to his home to scrub his house of bomb residue after they made it as well.
Okay, I take it back. No intel like then. Never mind.
None, son.
I
thought there was some.
The cleaning crew didn't scrub the online search history and purchase history.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
This
y'all.
wasn't what we had in mind.
You said you screw up everything.
We didn't mean the kitchen. We meant Google.
Preach.
Clean that up for us also, please.
They can track incognito? Uh-oh.
Dang it. That's amazing.
C4 on my search history?
It was a drink.
I've never heard of somebody releasing a python into somebody's home with plans.
I've heard of a lot. That's the first.
I never thought that would be a real thing.
That would
actually
work.
Discuss on the show.
Yes, that would definitely.
Here we are.
We made it.
Actually, something that took place and happened. All right.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, that's as far as I can go with that. I don't have anything else. Unless you want me to just find more random New York Post stories.
Those
out there.
Those are pretty dang entertaining.
I mean, there are some out there that we could get to, but I'm not sure that it's good. So we'll head to a break, come back, give you some more college football before we get out of here in today's show. Next on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. An update from the NFL Combine, 9/29, Thursday, February 27th on Jocks 94.5. Workouts will begin today. Michigan cornerback Will Johnson, Greg, not going to work out at a Combine. Sources are telling this to Jordan Reed of ESPN. Will fully participate in Pro Day on March 21st. Keep in mind, he played 6 games this year due to a foot injury. Now, there are some folks saying he's definitively the first corner off the board, but was limited last season. Now going to have to push back some workouts. Don't know how concerning that is, but definitely something that scouts and front office folks in the NFL are going to be paying attention to.
Yeah, but I also think that Will Johnson was a guy that, man, when Michigan needed a play made the last couple of years, when he was available and he was out there, gosh, he was so reliable in that way, man. Like, he's big time, and he's got length. He can cover man. I think he can play some. He's got good zone eyes too when he drops back. Like, he's a good player. I really like what that kid might be able to transition into next year.
I want to get to a couple of random tweets that we have gotten to, but Buddy has been on hold one to talk college football, so we'll go to the Buyers Right hotline now. Welcome, Buddy, in. What's on your mind today, Buddy?
Hey, good morning. And in reference to the Georgia story, maybe that guy exaggerated and called it a python. Listen, on the portal stuff, didn't they have a law, and I don't know whether it was NCAA, federal, or state, or maybe conference, back when runners seemed to be an issue? Didn't they somehow come up with saying if you're a runner and you're out there making contact with some of these players on other rosters, isn't that illegal?
I think that there are certain things that have been enacted in certain states along those lines. I would be lying to you, buddy, if I told you I remembered exactly what they were.
Okay.
But now I think the problem you would run into there is that legally these agents can represent these kids. So
legally,
how are
it's
you
allowed?
How do you get in the way of that?
Well, my thing is, okay, I don't think it could be legally if they're under contract to another institution, correct?
They're under contract with they're under contract with said agent. And I also don't think that the word contract, I think, is interesting in and of itself when you're discussing either scholarship or some of the NIL stuff that's out there from the collectives. I think that probably, and sometimes depends on the state as to exactly what kind of a contract you can even reference it as. I'm not an expert on it, so I'm not going to pretend like I know all of it.
All right, one other thing. Greg, please don't reference that any game is a war, especially when it comes to portal. When you have somebody that you know directly in a battle, in a war, has removed one of his friends and had to recover his Black Hawk and his brain matters all over the cockpit. It's sports, Greg. It's not a war. And I'd appreciate it if you would just try not to do that in the future, because that's just not right.
That's fine. I apologize. I didn't mean to be insensitive. I was more referring to the rules of engagement when it comes to these guys, not so much a war. So I apologize if that
I don't think that
was insulting.
Any part of Greg that meant to put any portion of that down whatsoever.
Not at all. It's not war. It's not military. We have long said that sports is sports and sports is fun. It has nothing to do with nothing serious in that matter, but more the rules of engagement. Do whatever it takes under those circumstances when trying to go and attract kids out of the portal. That's all it was.
That's it. But appreciate your service and sorry that you had to do that nonetheless. It's the portal portion of this is not something that's going to have an easy fix, not something that is going to be solved quickly, not something going to be solved overnight. And I think even if some new rules are enacted and different things are put in place, what do we always talk about? These coaches, the administrators are absolute experts on being able to snake these rules. And now the players are better at it than anybody.
For sure.
Going out, finding different ways to make sure they can take advantage of a rule. We talk about finding the underbellies of these rules all the time. It happens everywhere.
Nonstop.
And so it's not something that I think is going to change anytime soon. Deuce May has an interesting question into the show. Switching back to college basketball. If Janai Broome was player of the year, does he get a statue outside Neville Arena?
No. I don't think so.
If he wins player of the year and Auburn wins a national championship, does he get a statue outside Neville?
I think it's more appropriate under those circumstances.
Down the road sometime, I wouldn't have a problem
I'd probably
with
put the Bruce Pearl statue up long before I put up the Janai Broome statue.
I think that's probably coming either way. It's way down the road.
There's no – how many where's the Gene Chizik statue?
Bruce done a lot more for Auburn.
I get it. Still won a national championship, though.
Yeah, I don't think it should just be an individual qualifier like that. But
I think
instead they put the Cam Newton statue up and said that will suffice for 2010.
That's fine.
I'm fine with it.
I don't have any problem with either. All I'm saying is, like, I think Bruce Pearl should probably go up before Janai Broome.
Oh, and I think most Auburn fans would agree with that and say that they're okay with that. In reference to something that we discussed a little bit earlier on the show, sticking with college basketball, we talked about points in a season that Janai Broome now had hit 2,500 points. He's the 86th player ever to do that. We did have Steven Isbell tweet into the show about that because we looked at who had the most points in college basketball history in a single season. If you missed that conversation, it was staggering. It's Pete Maravich with 1,381. To give you an idea, Janai Broome has 488 right now this year. 488. 1,381 the record. The leading scorer in college basketball right now has just over 600. So hardly halfway there. Steven Isbell says, look deeper into Maravich's stats. You guys can do that for me if you don't mind.
What do we need? What's there to look deeper on?
Well, he's going to tell you. His dad was the coach and goosed his stats big time. They never made an NCAA tournament and only had one winning season with Pete pulling up those stats. It was him jacking up shots.
So all this time.
No ball movement.
He was a coach's son all this time. Who knew?
You got to be careful of those coaches' kids. There's one thing I've learned. There's a lot of truth to that.
I will say this. My 7-year-old did not set the Homewood 7 youth scoring record this past season.
Yeah, but did you set it up?
I was his coach.
Yeah, but did you set it up that way? That was it.
But I was his coach.
Yeah. I coach basketball right now, and I'm desperately trying to get everyone a shot. If everyone gets a shot, we had a good game. Want to win too, but
here's what I would say.
Getting everyone a shot a little more important.
If some of that's accurate, great.
Still got to make them.
This man still scored 1,381 points in a season without a three-point line. And you're going to tell me that his dad goosed those stats?
Yes. It's the only way he got there. There's no way he gets there.
Unless he was going over to the official stat book and adding 20 points a game to what he actually scored.
Yes.
I don't think I'm here for this conversation.
Well, you also need to remember, don't forget this. His dad was blindfolding opponents and making them to allow Pistol Pete.
How do you goose a stat?
I don't know, but his dad also made sure that guys didn't see the ball when he threw it behind their back for the first time in a no-look pass.
Did the ball go in the hoop enough to, I can't do the math on 1,381. How many shots is that? Because you have to count free throws too, so I don't really know.
Yeah, I don't know.
So what?
Assuming not free throws,
times?
that'd be 690 times.
Okay, so we'll say with free throws, 540
he only shot
shots
one
he made.
free throw that year, so
that was the one. He went 1
he
for
was
2
1
at the line.
for 1 at the line.
So whatever many shots he made, you that's on. Dad did that?
Yes, had to have.
Okay. All right, what about Elvin Hayes at Houston in 66-78 when he scored 12-14? His dad cranked those in too? And we already read from U.S. international guy Kevin Bradshaw, no relation to the WWE wrestler or Terry, that they were like 2-20 that year. So we're just going to say because the team didn't go to the tournament that it doesn't matter that you scored 1,000 points in a season?
Yes. The other thing, how many times has a player after his career come and be like, that my coach was kind of like a father figure to me? How many guys qualify as dads?
I'd be more interested in how many guys after their careers came back and said, oh, no, I can't accept your accolades because my coach was goosing my stats. Said stats were goosed.
You know what? Of all the different sports to, tweak stats, basketball would be one of the tougher ones to do. Like, if we're going to be honest, because you got to make it through the basket. Like, if you go out and shoot 12.5% from the line, you can shoot it 40 times a game. That's fine. Still going to average about 17 points.
What sports stats are most easily goosed? Next on First Take.
Football, for sure.
Just because the yardage can be, tackles.
I don't know.
Easily.
So
I used to think Luke Kuechly's dad was keeping the tackles in Boston College games.
Tackles for sure. That's definitely
you look
one.
on Monday morning and Luke Kuechly, they lost by 30 and he had 58 tackles. And you're like, hold on, what? How? What?
And then you watch the tape, you're like, he might have had more than that.
He actually made those plays.
Hang on a second.
His dad wasn't goosing the tackles.
I think football is definitely now. Go look at the end of the Alabama Auburn game last
Martial
year.
arts?
No, go look
When
at the
you're
end of
talking
the,
like boxing,
go look at the
strikes,
go look at the end of the Iron Bowl last year.
punches landed?
Let's look at the last 5 plays of the Iron Bowl last year.
Okay.
All right.
You have to?
Well, no, I'm just giving you an example of like how this can be done. Let's take a peek quickly. Last 5 plays, Alabama wins the game 28-14. But the last plays are end of game. Peyton Thorne complete to Keandre Lambert-Smith for 25 yards. Peyton Thorne to Keandre Lambert-Smith for 15 yards. Peyton Thorne complete to Keandre Lambert-Smith for 21 yards. And what were they trying to do? Get him to 1,000 yards? And that's right there. Hang on. So that is, that's 40,
that's
61 yards in the final 3 plays, all with under 6 seconds left to play.
You're saying that those were goosed?
I'm saying that is a way of goosing it. How about all the different times when you could very easily run the ball?
At least he still did it, though.
I'm not mad at it. I'm just saying football's the easiest one to do it in. How many times when you can run the ball from the 3-yard line against Slappy U, all right, you can just run it up the gut. You can hand it off to your running back, but you know what? We want to make our quarterback stats look a little better. Let's go with a little quick play action and throw it to a guy in the flat. How often do we see that? A lot, right? A lot.
See, I view that more as padding stats than.
That's the same thing. What's the difference between goosing stats
I don't know.
and padding
I've never
stats?
even heard goosing stats
I don't know.
until
I like
today,
the term,
so I don't know
goosing
what it is.
Stats I like.
I feel like one has a wingman.
What else do you goose? I should probably avoid that.
I think I'm going to avoid that one.
Okay.
Yep.
Graze, maybe?
Like, where does that phrase come from?
I don't know. I like it, though. I definitely like it. But
You're gonna use that in the game?
what about
Like
when a
when
coach...
you get to the end of the year and some guy's coming on late, but the team's 2-8.
What
And
about...
you're like, wow, well, so-and-so's rushing numbers are goosed.
What about... Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
What
the
about,
third teamers in against him late.
You see it all the time. How often did Shedeur Sanders attempt passes in the second half against
Oh boy, here we go.
God knows who? Go look at it. The numbers don't lie. Like, you can make things look however you want. You know how many throws I attempted from the 3-yard line and in my college career, maybe ever?
Unfortunately, we remember one of them.
That was the 4-yard line, so that doesn't count.
Oh, good. Erase it from my memory then.
All right, so maybe one ever. All right, you know how many times they did it with, threw it with Tua or Bryce Young from inside the 3? All right, because they were in a Heisman race. It made sense. Guess who got the ball inside the 3 when we were playing? Mark. Why? Heisman race. Stats, important. These are things.
Here's Shedeur's attempts by quarter. 101, 162, 107, 110. Yards by quarter. 822, 1369, 1044, 887.
Yeah. And?
It's not completely lopsided.
No.
As far as fourth quarter goosing.
No. But I'm just saying these are real things, and it's okay, by the way. There's nothing wrong with that. If
it
you
didn't feel like he geesed up a lot of teams in the fourth quarter.
That's why when I look at that's why I just don't think stats tell the whole story. Like, if stats tell the whole story, then why are the Texas Tech quarterbacks not the best players ever? Every year for however many years. Well, one now. Yeah. Yes. Not in college, though.
Oh, no.
Thankfully, we have E. Robinson out there who has sent us in the statistics for Pete Maravich. Free throw attempts in said season that we referenced, 436. That's a lot.
436?
Made 337. So still basically had 1,000-point season without free throws.
It's amazing. Gosh, but straight goosage.
Do you think he was greasing up or goosing up the officials to get Pete to the free throw line?
Is football the easiest one to goose, though? It has to be.
I think it depends on your definition of goosing.
Basketball, you still have to make the shot.
Right.
All right. You can put the end of the bench walk-ons in every day. They still have to make the shot.
What about assists? I could geese those things up real nice.
Yeah, could.
You pass it, and the guy dribbles around for 17 seconds and makes a 3.
Well,
that's
I don't know if that counts.
Billy Bob assist on that one. Every inbounds pass that didn't lead to a basket, he gets the assist.
Well, you could, I guess, in hockey when
a
they
guy drops ball, a steal.
When they pull the goalie, that does kind of count in hockey. So that is a bit of an adjustment.
Like what? You don't get the goal?
No, you do, but
did you hit puck with stick to go into net?
Yes, but there was no goalie.
I don't care. You made it.
But it's the end of game.
Okay, all right. So
stat padding.
So when you hit Julio on a go ball and they forgot to cover him, is that yardage for you?
No, I'm not. No, I'm saying, yeah. I mean, it's yardage, but it's still stat padding.
I call it geesing. You geesed him.
You're just mad that Keandre Lambert-Smith had under 900 yards receiving until the final 3 plays of the season.
Lambert-Smith did
don't be mad about
does.
that. It's fine.
We are the only team in college football, Greg, that has 2 of the PFF top 10 receivers returning this year. So I'm good.
You guys are wide receiver you.
Basically.
But seriously, how many different ways, do you think the tush push is a way of stat padding?
Speaking of goosing.
I would say more cheating than padding stats.
What about?
Do we think I do?
What about when a coach kicks a field goal? It's completely meaningless.
Like
at the
down
end of the
28.
Game. Yeah, down 28 or up 28 with minute and 14 seconds to go.
I do think that there are portions though when, and I think you'll agree with this. There are portions when a game is out of hand that you want to work the operation of certain things. You're like, my field goal team's shaky. Just send him out there to get us a kick. Or let's just get something positive here, please. Why would we go for it on 4th and 7 again when we're 0 for 8 on 4th down this year? Like, kick the field goal for the love. Yeah, I think there could be some of that.
That's a thing.
Times.
That's a thing. Still hilarious though.
Tell our listeners about Polar Bear Services.
Polar Bear Services is great. No stat padding there. They just take great care of you, and it proofs in the pudding. When you go and visit and spend time with Weston and the guys, they're just terrific. You'll be very appreciative of the experience you have when you go and call Polar Bear Services. There's just so many different ways they can help you. You can go and take a peek and see on their website, amazing, but plumbing, electrical, HVAC system, you name it, they can do it at your home. You're going to be so glad that you went with Polar Bear Services. I know I sure am over the last several years of having worked with that incredible group. Remember, if you have a problem with your electrical, plumbing, heat, or air, just pick up the phone and call the Bear. It's 205-497-BEAR. It's 497-BEAR.
All right, we have more tweets in on the Janai Broom statue. We'll get to those. Also, wanted to talk about a couple of other things from a football perspective that Greg was headed towards. We'll do that next on Mac and Cube in the morning.
I don't know how you
All right, welcome back in. Mac and Cube in the morning, Thursday, February 27th, 9:51, Jocks 94.5. If you missed Wimp Sanderson or our conversation on Goose and Stats, you can go get those at the podcast, jocksfm.com. You can also get it on the app. You can watch live on YouTube via the app if you go download that in the App Store. Another tweet coming in on the Janai Broome statue. Deuce May responds, I hear what Greg McElroy is saying on the Janai statue, but can y'all explain the Barkley statue then? Is it because he won NBA MVP or what? Because I think Janai would have had a better collegiate resume. NBA Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
I would say maybe.
By far most notable.
I'll place that right above NBA MVP. I mean, just a notch above, you know.
No, MVP is probably big. You may win the MVP. You're going to
I believe he was at one point in time named one of the 50 greatest players in the history of the sport. I'm maybe right above NBA
Olympian,
MVP for a single
gold
season.
medalist.
I'm just right.
He was in Space Jam.
That too.
The original.
The original.
Oops.
I mean, I would say this, Deuce. If you are questioning why Charles Barkley has a statue outside of Neville Arena, I don't have answers for you.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm not pushing back on Barkley getting a statue.
I got not a thing for you. I can't explain it. I'm not going to come up with anything. Yeah.
Better statue, the Barkley statue outside Neville, or the Dwayne Wade statue, or the Cristiano Ronaldo statue.
Ronaldo top of the list right now. Worst sports statue I've ever seen. Dwayne's not far behind.
Yeah. If only it was Dwayne Wade.
The best might be
Antoine
Shaq
Walker,
though, who's like dunking on a hovering basketball goal.
That one's fire.
Yeah.
It's awesome. But yeah, sometimes you wonder what these artists are when they're putting the statue together, like, because that's the finished product. So they have to pull the curtain off of it, and like you take the step back as an artist and you say,
Dang, I dropped the ball there. Or when they're like midway through the statue, they're like, gosh, this is not turning out the way I anticipated.
Right. When did he have a beard?
shouldn't have tried to goose the materials on that statue.
I think Janai is fine getting a statue, but the coach needs
Let's
to come
just
first.
slow down. Not yet. Not yet.
first.
Not yet.
Coach first.
Player of the year, national championship. Then I think you have the conversation.
I'm just not one that celebrates individuals. I am more of a team guy. But if y'all at Auburn want to go with individuals, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's why y'all are where you are. That's why we're where we are.
Go walk to that facility over there and see all the NFL guys when they've been drafted, their individual photos down, and all the Sports Illustrated covers with all
Both
the
of them?
individuals on the front of them.
He said both of them.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The picture of Cadillac.
What about, why do they have the Heismans out there that the guys have won?
Who?
The
How many y'all got now?
The
How many
Alabama
Heismans y'all
football
got?
facility. Why are the Heismans even on display if you don't celebrate individual awards?
I mean, it's part of it. It comes with the.
I just
comes
thought,
with the territory.
I thought you
How many
just, you just
statues
said,
are there?
I just thought you just
Where's
said
the statue of Ingram?
I just
Where's the
thought
statue of Bryce Young?
You just said we don't celebrate individual awards.
We don't.
So, but I've
Wanna know
seen
why?
said awards in facility.
Yeah, if I were you,
I even saw the damn McAnally Snapper Award, whatever the hell that is out there. Y'all celebrating that?
the what? Also, is the Remington?
No,
No, that's
that's the regular
The real
snapper,
one,
not
the
the
real
long
one,
snapper.
I think we're actually getting a copy of the Remington from Seth McLaughlin last year.
oh wow.
Cut it in half.
What if you? What
How
if
many
you?
fans
What if
want it?
one of
So
the
I would
guys
ask.
at one time played at your place? You got a piece of the trophy.
You just shave it.
Yeah, they just.
Man.
Here's the arm of the Heisman. Like Cam's
Here's your
Heisman,
left
they
shoe.
have to send the left arm of the Heisman to
Yeah.
Florida. It's like you just get a body part of the
He'd
award.
never have this arm if he didn't start here. Built by Florida.
Oh, that would be
That's wild.
hilarious.
You have to.
I think we're trending in that direction.
You're definitely headed there.
So if Caden Proctor would have been really outstanding, would any part have gone to Iowa?
yeah, he's there for a week.
Left toe.
Give him a part of it.
Chill.
I'm all right with it. Let him have
Who
some.
cares anymore? Doesn't matter.
It doesn't.
Let it rip.
We appreciate all your interaction into the show. Appreciate Wimp Sanderson joining today. Tomorrow, we'll give you some combine updates, results, obviously, of some workouts, and we'll talk a massive basketball weekend coming up as Auburn heads to Lexington, Alabama heads to Knoxville, and continue talking college football. The S&P rankings out. We'll discuss where certain SEC teams fall there. And you can keep the conversation going next with Three Man Front and then Paul Feinbaum after that on Jocks 94.5.